Yes. Oh, good. I think when Councillor Starkey and I had young kids running around during council meetings, they probably hit the lights a couple of times as well. So, and then finally, at AMO, we had an opportunity to meet the Ministry of Sports, Rec and Culture to talk about our ongoing efforts to establish a state-of-the-art indoor multi-sport dome, which would include turf fields, hard courts, and a walking track, among other recreational features. So that was a great meeting, and we are very optimistic about our opportunity to receive some important provincial funds to offset the investment in that. Okay. With all of that said, quick reminders, Kemptville Youth Musical Theatre Company, we have many young people in our community that have been hard at work for the past few weeks. They launched their first performance on Friday at 7 and then carry on all weekend. So admission is free. And we would certainly appreciate your support of some of the very talented youth in our community who bear down every August to provide a really compelling theatre right here at home in this very facility. We also have the Kemptville Youth Centre annual book fair. I don't know if members of the public realize, but every year this community donates upwards of 70,000 books for sale, and every dollar goes back to the Kemptville Youth Centre, and that usually raises over $20,000 for a youth center. So major revenue driver happening at Ferguson Forest. Check it out if you haven't already. And thank you to so many people in the community who donate books, if not in past years, in this year. And then we'd also like to highlight that the Bishop's Mills Community Association celebrates 50 years with its Community Fun Day this Saturday. And I know we have representatives from Bishop's Mills here. So thank you to the association for planning for a very exciting 50th year event. And then lastly, some of you may have been aware of Movie in the Park. It was an annual Riverside Park event. I remember taking my kids to it when they were younger. It's returning on Saturday, August 29th to Riverside Park. Bring your chairs and blankets, enjoy some popcorn, and take in a movie at Riverside Park. So with that, colleagues, we'll go to declarations of pecuniary interest and general nature thereof. Of course, this is in regards to any real or perceived financial benefit or loss arising from this evening's meeting. Any declarations? Seeing none, we'll move on. So 3 public meetings for those of you in the audience trying to follow along. The first is in regards to our Affordable Housing Community Improvement Plan. And I will read the legislative script that the province asks us to read for every public meeting. This next item is your opportunity to voice any objections or concerns you may have with respect to the proposed zoning bylaw amendment. If an appellant does not provide oral submissions at this public meeting or written submissions before council adopts the amendment, the Ontario Lands Tribunal may refuse to consider their objections. Any persons who wish to give further information to council or staff must do so ideally during this meeting. Do we have anyone here specifically for the Affordable Housing Community Improvement Plan? Not seeing anyone. So I'll turn it over to Director Martin to bring this back to council. I know we've had some great discussion in the past. So over to you, Ms. Martin.
Thank you, Your Worship. We just get the slide deck up. So tonight's public meeting is just to provide general information to council and members of the public in regard to the Affordable Housing Community Improvement Plan. This was one of many recommendations throughout various studies that have been commissioned by the municipality, including the Mayor's Task Force on Affordable Housing, our Affordable Housing strategy, and our housing strategy. I think we're just waiting for the slide deck. I can just start walking through it. That's why we print things. So the first slide just provides a bit of a history on the various studies that we've undertaken here at the municipality. A few have already mentioned. In the last year, we also undertook a housing needs assessment, and we were successful in 2024 in receiving housing accelerator funding to help spur our affordable housing initiatives. And this year, our project has been to develop a affordable housing community improvement plan. So the proposed community improvement plan does provide definitions for affordability and eligibility for that. So the affordability definition is based on the person-centered affordable rates established by the United Counties of Leeds and Grenville. And they source their data from the province as well as to what is considered affordable. So if we scroll down, I'll go up one actually to the chart. As you'll see on the screen, these are the affordable, person-centered affordable rates as provided by the United Counties of Leeds and Grenville. And we do update this value annually based on market trends. On the next slide, we also acknowledge that staff do work with affordability definitions through the Canadian Mortgage and Housing Corporation. So we do have developments that, if we go to the next slide, are funded through CMHC. And oftentimes, just to ensure that we're not encumbering those agreements further, we do accept the rates as entrenched through their CMHC agreements for affordable housing developments. If we go to the next slide, you will see a map of the municipality. This is the entire project area for the community improvement plan. So any property within North Grenville that can meet the eligibility criteria under this plan can apply for funding. So there are two branches in regards to incentives. One is a grant opportunity and another is a rebate opportunity. So if we go to the next slide, we'll start with the Affordable Housing Development Grant, which is to incentivize purpose-built rental units, affordable housing units, rental or ownership, and the provision of a minimum of 15% of these units is affordable within a development where they register and maintain these units as affordable for a minimum of 10 years. Next slide, please. The criteria to apply for this specific grant would be that it has to be new or previously unoccupied units in multi-unit housing. So an owner who constructs a new multiple unit housing with 4 or more units, or they add more units to their development, could be eligible for a grant of up to $5,000 for the affordable unit only. The Affordable Housing Tax Increment Grant is to help offset the increase in the taxation that results from the development of the multi-residential units, including the affordable units that would be part therein. We go to the next slide. Again, the criteria echoes the affordable unit grant, where there has to be a minimum of 4 new residential spaces that are created. It does apply to units that are being constructed in a mixed-use development. So if you're doing a multi-unit building that has commercial on the ground floor and residential units above, it would just be on the residential portion of the tax increase. The program is only in effect for 10 years. So every year you would get whatever, there'd be a decreasing tax increment that you would get for the increase in the tax portion. It would not apply to the county's portion of the taxation or the education portion, just the municipal. And again, it's to be done in conjunction with the affordable housing grant that we discussed in the previous slide. So not to be confused with our additional residential initiative we have going on, which is to help the creation of standalone additional residential units. There is a proposal within the community improvement plan for affordable housing to have an incentive to include additional residential units in new construction. So this would include a rebate of up to $5,000 for home buyers who choose to include an additional residential unit in the purchase of a newly constructed home. So developments are eligible they have to be eligible as per our appropriate governing bylaws and zoning regulations. And the rebate would be a one-time grant of up to $5,000 of the construction costs. In addition, the program also is proposing to include an accessibility top-up rate for those additional residential units. So where an individual takes the extra step to make that additional residential unit accessible, they could also get an additional $5,000 towards the creation of that unit. And that would be a one-time installment. Next slide, please. And the final rebate of that is being proposed within the plan would be a building fee rebate. And this is to help reduce the cost of development as it relates to building permits. So the rebate would be for a new or previously unoccupied unit in multi-unit housing where they're constructing 4 or more. And the maximum rebate available would be 50% of the fees up to a maximum of $1,300. And in this case, we don't waive building permit fees. You would be given a rebate after you had paid your building permit fee to help offset those costs. And I do have an example before council this evening and the community in regards to how does this really add up? And one of the questions that staff were challenged with is what effect do these rebates have when you start to look at all the other initiatives that are happening to incentivize the creation of affordable housing. So I took a 10-unit apartment building with a 20% affordability rate, and I used some real numbers from some recent projects that are happening here in North Grenville. And before council and the community this evening is just a scenario of what this could look like. And it includes statutory reductions, including development charge exemptions for affordable units, development charge reductions for apartment units. It includes what an affordable housing development grant could look like in regards to how much the max rebate they could get. Based on a few of our existing buildings who have availed of the tax increment grant under our downtown community improvement plan, an equivalent of what that total rebate could look like over a period of 10 years. If you add on the building permit rebate, and there is an HST rebate on new home construction, and all that adds up to in a 10-unit building, approximately almost $300,000 that would go towards reducing the cost of construction for that building to provide more affordability. So when you break that down on a unit by unit basis, for the 2 affordable units, you would save, you would see a monthly subsidy if you spread that value over a 10-year period of $432.27 per month. So that's offsetting the cost that you're not collecting in market rent to provide that unit at an affordable rate. And then the other units that are not affordable, when you add up the various rebates, development charge reductions, would see a subsidy of $202.70 a month over that 10-year period. So when we start to talk about how do all these programs start to stack up and how it can impact affordable housing, I think these numbers, based on some real world examples happening here in North Grenville on some recent construction projects, shows that adding additional incentives will have further impact to help reduce the cost of construction, to help builders and landlords provide affordable units should they avail themselves of this program to the residents of North Grenville. That concludes my presentation. I am available for any questions from council and from members of the public should you have any. Thank you.
Okay, colleagues, great. Of course, we've had lots of conversation about affordable housing around this table for many years. So this represents, I think, another tool in the toolbox, if you will, in terms of recognizing that there are opportunities to leverage interests on the part of residential builders to ensure some component of affordability. Council colleagues, any questions, comments? Deputy Mayor?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Through you to Director Martin. I just want to confirm a couple of points in your presentation. Looking at our 15% affordable goal, it's my understanding that we're looking at municipal-wide percentage rather than per development project coming forward. So the goal is overall to reach 15% affordability right across the municipality rather than looking at each individual development to hit that mark. And the second question, while I have you, is from your presentation, all these incentives, approximately $71,000 would come from the municipality to incentivize 2 affordable units, or 20%, correct?
Through your worship to the Deputy Mayor, thank you for the questions. In response to the goals in regards to affordability, municipal wide, that would be a target we set in the official plan from a policy perspective. So certainly I believe our official plan states a 25% target overall, and that is achieved through various projects, both municipal led and private led. In order to qualify for this program, you would have to maintain that 15%. So it's that overall average is benefited by many projects. In regards to the questions about the incentives, I mean, this is just an example of that. How it could play out to get a 20% affordable rate, subject to do they meet the criteria. It's paid out over time. The tiered grant doesn't necessarily come out of the overall allotment because we do phase in that tax rate over time. But it would be something that through the funding of various, the various streams that they could apply for, they could potentially receive that much funding over a 10-year period, just depending on, again, the tiered grant is calculated using many different factors for what that increase in that rental rate is. So that's kind of a bit of a moving target as to what that final value would be, but that's just an example of a similar size project that happened in the downtown community improvement plan.
Okay, but in your example, $71,000 would be foregone either tax and or the other incentives that we have, the CIP. The cost to the municipality would be about $71,000 to incentivize 20% affordability. The rest would come from HST rebates, et cetera.
Yes.
Correct?
Yes, through your worship to the Mayor, that is correct. So based on the calculation of all the various things, when we don't collect development charges, I mean, that's a cost to the municipality because we're not realizing the collection of those fees, although those are provincially mandated now that we eliminate development charges on affordable units, and we're required to reduce them for apartment dwelling units. So, I mean, we realize that impact maybe a little differently from how we collect development charges, but the overall financial impact to the municipality from that subsidization standpoint, based on these programs, would be around 71,000. Now, this is if they had qualified for everything. This is the situation is they were able to get everything to achieve. This is how you would, if they maximized all the grants to the best of their ability to create those units, and what that subsidy breaks down on a month-by-month basis.
Thank you very much. I'm sure they will try to maximize. Thank you.
Other questions, colleagues? Amy, I just want to clarify, Director Martin, pardon, that in this instance, these incentive programs are available to individual builders, not just multi-residential builders. We know that there is a great interest on the part of multi-res because of the upfront investment. But if you can just clarify, I just want to make sure that I've understood the report correctly, that an individual home builder could potentially avail of some of these opportunities.
Thank you for the question, Your Worship. Absolutely. That's the additional residential unit in new home construction, I think would be one of interest for anyone building a new home. The Affordable Housing Development Grant and the tax increment grant requires that a minimum of 4 units are being created. So that might be challenging for an individual homeowner who's just building a house. But the grant for the building permit fees also with 4 or more units. But to that end, if you are building a new home, you could apply to get funding for that area if you choose to put one in your new home construction, and up to an additional $5,000 if you make it accessible.
Great, thank you. And don't worry about the little ones. We're very happy to hear their noise. It's no problem at all. Okay, thank you very much. Colleagues, any other questions about the CIP? No?
Yeah. Yes. Sorry.
Deputy Mayor, I apologize. Go ahead.
All right. Yeah, just a final, I think to clarify to those listening and watching tonight that we committed $100,000 of the Housing Acceleration Fund to cover some of those deferrals, if I put it that way.
And it's a good reminder that, in fact, the municipality of North Grenville was one of the only smaller communities in Eastern Ontario to receive, if I'm not mistaken, just over $5 million in Housing Accelerator Fund dollars from the ministry. I saw in your report, Director Martin, that the housing needs assessment was also undertaken as part of the Accelerator Fund program, and we thank the federal government again for their generous support. Is that report public?
Yes, it is.
Okay, and it has come to council, if I'm not mistaken, in the past?
That is correct, Your Worship. There was a presentation to council.
That's what I thought. Okay, good stuff. So in terms of the recommendation, colleagues, if there are no other questions, the outcome of tonight is that we've held our public meeting, Ms. Martin, is that right?
Thank you, Your Worship. You do need to open up to the public should anyone want to come down and speak to the.
Indeed. Okay, of course, thank you. Is there anyone here wishing to speak to the Affordable Housing Community Improvement Plan? See anyone? Okay. Great. So with that, I'll close the public meeting, Ms. Lee. And then we would receive a motion that we've held the meeting. Okay. So then, council colleagues, if I can look for a mover and a seconder. Thank you, Councillor Wilson. Councillor Strachan, thank you. That we've held a public meeting pursuant to Section 2(8) of the Planning Act to consider affordable housing community improvement plan initiatives. So that's on the table. Might I ask Ms. Martin, just remind me, when would this program come into effect?
Thank you, Your Worship. So we do have to bring it back for council adoption, and in that report, we would provide a timeline for implementation. Typically, I mean, it'd be great to kind of align it with a calendar year to allow us to ramp up, but we will provide that level of detail at the adoption stage.
And the adoption, as you would anticipate it in terms of returning to the council table?
Thank you, Your Worship. Looking at September 1st to bring it back for a final adoption.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Any other questions, colleagues? Not seeing any, then I'll call the vote. All in favor? Okay, that carries. Thank you very much. So next, we're going to move on to I2, ZBA 07, 2026, OVI, Phase 2 rezoning, PD 2026-051. And I believe that is with yourself. Okay, Ms. Martin, go ahead.
Thank you, Your Worship. So this evening, we are considering a zoning bylaw amendment for Phase 2 of the Oxford Village subdivision. This is to amend the existing zoning, which was approved by council, I believe, about a year and a half ago. So the property is currently zoned residential 4th density, exception 18 holding, residential 3rd density, exception 25 holding, and institutional holding. The property is designated as residential under the official plan. It is currently a draft plan, a subdivision, and will be constructed for future residential with the potential for some locally servicing commercial uses. Surrounding land uses include residential, wetland, and agriculture. Next slide, please. I want to acknowledge that the developer has also applied for a draft plan amendment to allow for the realignment of the roads within the draft approved subdivision. And they're also looking to reduce the original number of units within the subdivision from 955 to about 778. So the zoning bylaw amendment that's been brought forward this evening is hoping to address the proposed changes to the subdivision in regards to seeking to add more medium density uses to that residential 4th density exception 18 holding zone, as well as to realign the zone boundaries, recognizing about a 12.8 meter kind of realignment of roads within the proposed subdivision itself. Next slide, please. So on the map, Phase 2 is located north of Phase 1, which is currently under construction. And it does sit adjacent to the Equinel subdivision, and the back of the property does back onto the Settlers Trail and a part of Settlers Grant. As you will see in this map, the realignment is drawn out. It's quite busy in there as it shows kind of the shifting of the roads, how everything's going to slightly shift down. That will be addressed through the draft plan amendments, but we are hoping to align it on the zoning side as well. So that would be on the western side of the property. If we go to the next slide, staff did undertake a policy analysis of various policies from the provincial planning statement, which are listed on the screen. I will not go into them in great detail as they are very defined within the report, but staff are satisfied that the proposed zoning bylaw amendment meets the intent of the provincial planning statement. In regards to the United Counties official plan, staff did review the settlement growth management policies and are satisfied that the proposed rezoning does meet the intent of the United Counties official plan. When we look at our own official plan, various policies were considered in regards to our residential housing policies and growth management policies, and staff are satisfied that the proposed zoning amendment meets the intent of these policies. So on the next slide, it provides a breakdown to council as to what the proposed zone requirements would be for a townhouse dwelling unit within the residential 4th density exception 18 zone. This mimics the zoning considerations that are in the residential 3rd density zone. So we're just adding them into the residential 4th density zone. And then the back-to-back townhouses, which are also proposed to be added as a use, The zoning considerations are before council this evening as well to be added into that zone. Some additional general provisions are being added in regards to front yard setbacks as it relates to private right-of-ways. So that would be a private lane for the back-to-back townhouses, and some additional clauses in regards to accessory uses. Next slide, please. And then the zoning provision also seeks to add in provisions related to projections. So those are included as well as it relates just to the back-to-back townhouses. So it would allow for some minor encroachments for certain uses, such as, we're going really fast here, balconies, steps. So oftentimes we do see some steps that project into a required front yard setback. So that establishes those rights to be able to project based on what is before council this evening. Next slide, please. In regards to public comments, we did receive a comment from Mr. Cannon in regards to making sure that there is an effort made to ensure that apartment dwelling units are still included within the development, given that we're adding more medium density uses into the residential fourth density zone. The comment also noted that we need to ensure that the holding provision or the draft conditions require 10% to 25% of the housing units be provided as affordable. And I can confirm that both do, both the holding and the draft conditions. Public Works also provided comments related to adjusting various studies as part of the draft plan amendment, and that will be addressed at that stage. So it is staff's recommendation that council enact a bylaw to approve a zoning bylaw amendment for Oxford Village Phase 2, which would add in townhouse dwelling units and back-to-back townhouse dwelling units, provide for those additional provisions within that zone category, and allow for the shifting of the zone boundary by about 12.8 meters to the south. I do want to acknowledge that Mr. Sutherland is here this evening. He is the agent on the file. Should council have any questions for him in relation to the development? Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. And I'll recognize Councillor Sullivan. Thank you. Go ahead, Councillor Sullivan.
Thank you. Through you, Madam Mayor, to Director Martin. On figure 1.2, it changes to the approved draft plan. Could you please point out for reference where the Settlers Trail is, please?
Through your worship to the member of council, if you're looking at the screen, it's on the left. So the zoning that's impacted is kind of in the middle of the screen. Nothing is changing in regards to where Settlers Trail is, which will be on the left side of your screen.
So down there, okay. So then my question is, thank you. So the buffering between the new residential development and the trail, has the zoning bylaw been amended to ensure protection and or installation of tree buffering between the Settlers Trail and the new development?
Through your worship to the member of council, that's not really germane to the zoning amendment that is before council this evening. However, there is a 3-meter strip included within the zoning that was brought to council about 1.5 years ago when the zoning for Oxford Village Phase 2 was originally implemented.
So does that 3-meter strip include trees to be either protected or to be replaced if what exists has to be removed to maintain the tree buffering between the recreation space and the new development that council passed back in December of 2024?
Through your worship to the member of council, the zoning doesn't go as far as to dictate that it has to be a tree buffer. It notes it's a landscape buffer. Those are items that are better addressed as part of the draft conditions as to the requirements for landscaping itself. But these are items that we can raise with the developer, but from a zoning perspective, it cannot be a tool that specifically states it's exclusively treed.
I thought that I was under the impression that a zoning amendment would be the way to ensure that that the Settlers Trail remained treed, that there was a treed buffer between the recreation land and the new development. That was my understanding from the result of that meeting back in December of 2024. I will go back and check what it said. The other concern I have is connectivity. As many people may or may not be aware, there's been changes in school transportation and busing, and that people who live within a 3-kilometer to a school, high school students will now have to walk. They won't be bused. So I just want to ensure that there's safe connectivity, safe sidewalks in order for them, because it's obviously geared towards families, to ensure that there's safe walkable space for any students who have to walk to, say, St. Michael High School.
And maybe I see the developer's representative is here, and I apologize, I don't know your name.
My name is Nick Sutherland. I'm an urban planner and I work for the developer. I'm happy to answer your questions if you'd like.
Thank you.
Great.
Through you, Your Worship,
Yep.
Councillor O'Sullivan, I'll start with the Settlers Trail. So through the draft plan of subdivision approval that we received about 2 years ago, in those conditions, there are certain specifications with that 3-meter buffer that require them to be planted. So I believe it's still in those conditions. We are going through a appeal of those conditions currently, and we're settling that with staff. But anything related to the Settlers Trail in those conditions has left as is. So there's no change. There's no change in intention either from the developer to do anything different along that edge of Settlers Trail. So that 3-meter buffer remains as is, and it was the intention to continue to treat it as well. So nothing changes through this zoning bylaw amendment application here today. And through you, Your Worship, maybe to the second question related to, I believe you're getting to active transportation and making sure people have safe connections. So there is sidewalks proposed all throughout the plan of subdivision. There's also trails along the wetland edge, and so it gives a little bit extra connection that way. There's also some mid-block connections. You can kind of see them on the plan up there, but it's a little difficult for me to point them out. But there are going to be, between rows of houses, small pathways for people to get through, just increasing the ability for pedestrians to walk through the neighborhood more safely and easily and off of roads. So I hope that addresses your concern.
Yes, thank you. Would those spaces between houses, would they be maintained during the winter, cleared of snow in the winter?
Through you, Your Worship, the intention was to convey them to the municipality as small blocks. And so the responsibility would then rest with the municipality as to whether they wanted to keep them grassed or gravel or accessible all year round. So
Perhaps that can be addressed through the mobility master plan, which has a significant active transportation component. So perhaps through Ms. Martin and the CAO, we can flag that as opportunities to facilitate better connectivity within and among subdivisions in that area. Yes, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. As you're aware that the municipality will be eventually, once the assets are assumed, will be maintaining the paved MUPs as well as the sidewalks that are within the road allowances. If these connections are paved or concrete, there is always the opportunity, as long as they meet the width parameters of the equipment, that we can consider that as part of our asset management.
Thank you. Thank you both.
Thank you. Colleagues, other questions in regards to this presentation? Yes, go ahead, Deputy Mayor.
Through you to the developer's representative, until such time as the municipality assumes possession or control of those walkable spaces, what's the developer's intention in terms of maintaining it during the winter?
through Your Worship, I guess it would just depend if there's any lots available around them, right? So if there is, for example, no other dwellings in proximity to those pathways, wouldn't really make sense to maintain them yet. But if there was lots coming in, obviously as development goes out, we would be making all those connections, and the road network will be built out before a lot of the lots come in, just like typical subdivision. So we'll start to see those pathways materialize, and then obviously if we give the land to the municipality, it would be up to the municipality to figure out what to do with them over time, and depending how quickly you wanted to move and pave them or not, obviously that responsibility rests with you. So.
Great, thank you. Any other questions from colleagues? So my only question, maybe to Mr. Sutherland or Ms. Martin, is there is a holding symbol, of course, to ensure that certain conditions are honored as per the process for many different subdivisions. So what's the status of the holding symbol as it relates to this particular amendment to the subdivision?
Thank you, Your Worship. So the holding symbol will stay in place until those conditions are met, one of which is a subdivision agreement. So until such a time that those conditions are met, the development will wait to proceed. But we are working with the developer to advance through those items. And once those are all in place, we can bring back an amendment for council's consideration to lift the holding.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Sutherland, before we let you go, what was the catalyst for changing course here? Obviously, a multi-residential building had been a big part of the initial discussion and I think was highlighted as a feature of the subdivision. Of course, we know that there is more multi-residential coming online across the community, but I'm just curious to know from your client's perspective, why would you be proposing exclusively townhouses?
So we just wanted to clarify through your worship that we're not proposing exclusively townhouses. We're adding townhouses and back to the list of permitted uses. So we wanted to create a little bit more flexibility. Since the time that we had this initial approval, market has changed a little bit, obviously. And in talking with some of the local builders, other developers who will be eventually purchasing the lands from the ownership group, having that flexibility built in for other types of products was just a little bit smarter. Yeah, so that's basically the
So it's not to say there isn't a plan for a multi-residential building.
correct. If the right person came along who wanted to build that type of unit, it's still option to do so. We're just increasing the list of options basically here.
Okay, understood. Thank you. So with that in mind, colleagues, I think I need to recognize Councillor Strachan, leaning left. Councillor Strachan, go ahead.
Thank you, through Madam Mayor, to you, Mr. Sutherland. So just to follow on from the question from the mayor, is that there are no intended sort of ratios of types of houses to each other. It's going to depend on who comes to you and what kind of housing they're interested in building. Is that correct?
Through you, your worship, to some degree, yes, but as you can see in the plan up there, for example, we've lotted out the single detached lots. We've also created blocks that are certain shape and size for certain types of units. So the longer, skinnier ones are more suited to townhouse or back-to-back townhouse or stacked townhouse, whereas the larger blocks in the middle could be for an apartment, or they could be further subdivided into townhouses. So it's just increasing that flexibility, really.
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay, Councillor Sullivan, one last comment?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you. I also noted in the application, 15% of the original 955 homes would have been 143 units at designated as affordable. And 10% is 96 homes, and that's what you're designating as affordable. And even when you go down to the 10% of the 778 should be 78 units. It should be 15% of 778. I mixed up those numbers, I'm sorry. But it appears that it should be 117 units that are designated affordable. Sorry, should be 143. No, wait, should be 90. Oh my God, I'm sorry.
Maybe we could have Mr.
I
Sutherland do
do
the
have it
math
figured
as
out.
well. Mr. Sutherland, do you want to speak on the affordability component? As you know, having just listened to our previous presentation, very enthusiastic about affordability. Given market forces, as you know, the price of housing has gone up. So where is that commitment from the developer to honor some of those affordable housing provisions?
Yes, through you, your worship. It's all in the conditions of the draft plan of subdivision that was approved. So again, there are conditions specifically tied to affordable housing in that approval, and that's the mechanism that's going to be used to implement that.
So Councillor Sullivan, I think your suggestion is
They're only giving us 10% affordable.
indeed, and maybe Ms. Martin, you can clarify what was the original commitment for affordable housing for Oxford Village?
I think, Your
Phase
Worship, so it was 15% on the multi-residential blocks.
Right. Okay. So in the absence of multi-residential blocks, I think Councillor Sullivan's asking, what is the commitment? Mr. Sullivan? Oh, we've lost.
Through you, Your Worship, yep.
Yeah, go.
Just want to clarify, it's not the absence of multi-residential blocks. There are still multi-residential blocks.
So one would expect then that affordable housing commitments would be honored in part through the multi-residential blocks
Correct.
that have not disappeared, that remain part and parcel of the subdivision,
You are correct, yes.
more or less. Councillor Strachan?
Through you, Madam Mayor, just to clarify, there's no commitment to multi-residential units. There's the possibility of multi-residential units, correct?
Through Your Worship, I would say that's accurate. It all depends on who the future builder is. So I can't
Correct. So if no multi-residential units come to you via the developers, if there's no interest there, then the commitment to affordable housing would still be at that 15%?
It's still enshrined within the draft plan of subdivision conditions, regardless of sort of what ends up being the final product there. Again, the exercise today was just to increase that flexibility, the types of units that we could do, but that applies to all of them.
Understood. I just was looking for clarification on that. Thank you.
Appreciate the nuance. So I guess TBD in terms of how that commitment is fulfilled, one way or another. Okay, and it is part and parcel of the holding provisions, as I understand it?
That is correct, Your Worship. And just to clarify, the 15% was on the R4 zone. So whether it's a townhouse that's being built or a apartment unit that's being built, it would apply to the units within that R4 zone.
So not specific to multi-residential, just to that particular zoning where residential will be built.
That is correct, Your Worship.
Thank you. Colleagues, anything else in regards to this one? Not seeing any. Is there anyone here in regards to this particular application? Not seeing anyone. Okay. So then I'm going to go to the recommendation, and that is that council enacts bylaw 103/2026 to amend the zoning provisions for the residential fourth density, exception 18 holding R4 18H, and to adjust the zoning boundaries within the Oxford Village subdivision phase 2. We thank Mr. Sutherland for coming and answering council's questions, and I'll look for a mover and a seconder, please. Mover, seconder, Deputy Mayor, Councillor Strachan, thank you. Any last comments or questions, colleagues? Not seeing any. All right, I will call the vote. All in favor? All right, that carries. So one more public meeting, and that is ZBA 0626-290 Buker Road, PD 2026-053. Who's taking us through this one? Okay, welcome, Mr. Mosher. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. We can go to the next slide, please. This is an application for a property located at 290 Buker Road to change the zoning from rural to residential first density as part of a fulfillment of condition from a related severance application. The subject lands are located at the southwest corner of the hamlet of Bishop's Mills, as is shown here on this map. This is the rural settlement map that's shown on the United Counties of Leeds and Grenville GIS viewer. Here, it's roughly shown, again, in the southwest corner of Bishop's Mills. This is North Grenville's official plan. The subject property is within the hamlet of Bishop's Mills, although just at the end of it. The next slide shows the zoning being rural currently, and the intention is to rezone. This shows the severance sketch. It was either flip this upside down and have all the writing be upside down, or at least have it legible. So you just have to flip it 180 in your mind, but that shows the same orientation as the other sketches that have been presented. The next slide, please. So this application is consistent with the provincial planning statement because this proposed severance and related zone amendment will support an accommodation of a diverse range of types of housings that are required and directed within rural settlement areas. It's also considered the local context, character, scale of development, and provision of the service levels, being well and septic. Next slide, please. It's consistent with the United Counties of Leeds and Grenville plan as well, allowing for some growth in rural settlement areas with logical infilling, which this type of an application is, and it's appropriate with this type of in this type of area. Next slide, please. And then finally, residential uses are contemplated and considered within North Grenville's hamlet areas, residential of many different kinds. So rural, not so much, but residential, yes. And so this application is seen to be consistent with the hamlet designation. Next slide. It would only be a scheduled change. There's no exceptions that are required here, as the proposed lots that are planned to be divided will be able to comply with all of the R1 zone standards. Next slide. This application was circulated to persons and agencies as required under the Planning Act. As a result of that, we received an inquiry from a Ms. Peacock regarding the application. Questions were answered. Also inquiries from a Mr. and Mrs. Overend regarding the lot size and rationale. We did receive an email of no objection from Enbridge Gas, noting the right to reserve or amend development conditions, and a letter of no objection from the Rideau Valley Conservation Authority. Next slide. Internally, we received letters of no comment from Public Works, an email of no comment from Emergency and Protective Services, and an email of no comment from Bylaw Service staff. So it is staff's recommendation that this application to rezone from rural to residential first density be approved by council as a condition of the severance, which will then allow the severance to conclude and the lots to be separately conveyed. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Mosher. Questions? Deputy Mayor, go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. To Deputy Director Mosher, can you expand on the comment from Enbridge? I don't quite understand what that's all about.
Through you, Madam Mayor, it's as I understand it, it's a comment where they say, we don't really object, but if we want to change conditions or have a different type of a statement in the future, we reserve the right to have that. So that's how I've always interpreted it. I have never seen them come back on an application such as this and say that they're providing any type of objection.
What kind of conditions are they empowered to change?
Through you, Madam Mayor, as a commenting agency on the severance, they could have imposed conditions, they did not, or there could be conditions of development that are required as part of the servicing of the property in future. But as it relates to the zone amendment, there's no conditions that can be imposed, not even by municipal council. So.
Okay, thank you. Just seeking clarity from the clerk, I'll recognize Councillor Sullivan.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, through you to Deputy Director Mosher. How many acres approximately is the retained land? It said that the severed portion was approximately 5 acres, I think, but how many acres is the retained portion?
I don't have that figure right in front of me. I will get it to you, but I believe they're roughly equal in size, so about 5 acres each.
And so do you know what the number of lots that they're thinking of severing it into?
Through you, Madam Mayor. So it's one severance to create 2 lots from one parcel. So 2 at the end.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, wonderful. Anything else in regards to this file? So anybody know that sometimes rural property owners really... Yes, yes, indeed. We certainly understand that where it's possible for rural property owners to sever lands, it can be a benefit to them. So thank you, Mr. Mosher, for supporting the applicant on this file. Again, this is a public meeting specific to a zoning bylaw amendment. Is there anyone here for Buker Road? I don't think so, but I have to check. All right. So no comments from the public, Mr. Mosher. Is there anything else you'd like to bring to our attention? Okay, we're good. Okay, so with that, colleagues, we're going to look for a mover and a seconder for the following: that council approve bylaw 10426 being a bylaw to rezone 290 Buker Road from rural to residential first density R1. Is the applicant in the audience, Mr. Mosher? We don't think so, right? Applicant here? No? Okay. So mover and a seconder, please. Who would like to move? Thank you, Councillor Wilson. Councillor Strachan. Last call for comments from council colleagues. Seeing none, I'll call the vote. All in favor? Great. Thank you. So that concludes our public meetings. I'm just conferring with the clerk on what comes next. We think it's the interim control bylaw, but I just need to ask the clerk, do we have anyone waiting to address us before we go to the interim control bylaw? Okay, and that would be in regards to the interim control bylaw. Okay, so maybe just some context. We've had a requested delegation, is that correct, for the interim control bylaw? And could you provide information on who that individual is, please? Okay, so, and I take my advice from you in this matter. You're asking that we allow Mr. De Ruyter to speak on behalf of Tomlinson. Is that correct? Okay. So just context for people who are here, there was a public meeting held in regards to the aggregate pit application. That happened in mid-July. I believe some of you would have been in that room, and Deputy Mayor, who was chairing that meeting, because I was participating online, as well as our staff, heard quite a number of public comments at that time. As some of you may or may not recall, subsequent to that meeting, council has initiated a proposed interim control bylaw. This evening's agenda item in regards to the aggregate pit application is really focused on the interim control bylaw. That being said, at the clerk's advice, we are being asked to allow Mr. Reuter to speak on behalf of R.W. Tomlinson before considering the interim control bylaw. So I take our advice from the clerk in regards to this matter. So we'll hear from Mr. De Ruyter, and then council will have an opportunity to deliberate over the proposed recommendation, which obviously includes potential adoption of the interim control bylaw, as well as a proposed objection letter coming from council. So with that in mind, you have Mr. Reuter admitted. Okay, and typically we allow up to 5 or 10 minutes. 10 minutes. So Mr. De Ruyter, welcome. You have up to 10 minutes, and the clerk will oversee the time. Subsequent to Mr. De Ruyter's delegation, council will then move immediately into the consideration of the items on the agenda this evening. So welcome, Mr. De Ruyter, and I really apologize if I haven't said your name correctly. You're certainly welcome to correct me. Thank you.
That is okay, Madam Mayor. You're not the first, won't be the last. My name is Neil De Ruyter. I'm a planner from MHBC Planning. I'm here on behalf of R.W. Tomlinson to speak to the proposed interim control bylaw for aggregate. Sorry?
I don't see that Mr. De Ruyter is muted. We're just going to have one of our staff colleagues see if we can connect in the audio. All right.
So you can hear them online. It's not us. So
Right.
it's the same thing.
Okay. Okay. A little technical difficulty. Yep. Can we test your audio again, Mr. De Ruyter?
Yes, can you hear me, Madam Mayor?
We can hear you.
Thank you. Thank
Oh,
you.
just hang on. I apologize, but you're very loud, which is not your fault. It's just the way the audio system is working. Are we able to diminish the volume? Okay, you've turned, okay. Mr. De Ruyter?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I've been known to be a loud talker, so it could be on my end as well here. So I apologize. I'll try to keep my voice down, and please jump in if there's any audio issues. My name's Neil De Ruyter. I'm a planner with MHBC Planning. I'm here on behalf of R.W. Tomlinson Limited to speak to the proposed interim control bylaw for aggregate. Certainly appreciate the opportunity to delegate to council this evening, and I'd like to keep my remarks brief. Tomlinson's legal counsel submitted a letter today regarding the interim control bylaw, specifically the concerns regarding the proposed bylaw. And I just sort of wanted to speak, I guess, to a couple items, and certainly happy at the end to answer any questions that council may have. But I just wanted to start by saying that, Tomlinson is concerned that this specific bylaw is directly in response to their application for the East Oxford pit. Tomlinson initially reached out to the municipality in 2023 regarding this proposal and did a pre-consultation meeting with staff. Earlier this year, the applications were submitted to the municipality as well as the Ministry of Natural Resources for the related license application. Those applications were deemed complete in early May of this year. As you noted, Madam Mayor, we did have a public meeting on this in the middle of July. At that public meeting, there was your planning staff's recommendation that the planning applications be approved, in which council then deferred a decision on that. And later that evening, there was the motion put forward on proceeding with the interim control bylaw and bringing forward a bylaw to essentially this meeting. And I think Tomlinson's concerns stem with the fact that this bylaw is being done in direct response to that application. And I think the concerns come down to it could be viewed that this is a bylaw essentially being put in place to either frustrate, stifle, or delay the consideration of Tomlinson's application. And what I would note is, as part of the application review process that we're currently engaged in for the PIT application, we're in the process of working through the peer review comments, the public comments. Council had several comments which we are working on addressing. There is a form and process in which those matters will come out, and at the end of the day, that matter will still be before council for a future decision on the planning applications. The question, I guess, that Tomlinson is raising as well relates to the need for this bylaw. And the reason I bring that up with respect to the planning rationale that we reviewed, we didn't see any mention of the fact that the municipality is currently undergoing an official plan review. In my experience as a planner, typically that would include matters of aggregate policies and mapping. That certainly, from our perspective, provides the municipality with the forum to consider any changes that may be necessary to their policies. But I think the question that Tomlinson has is it just appears from their perspective with the chronology, how things proceeded, that this bylaw being brought forward tonight is directly in response to Tomlinson's application. And they are concerned that at the end of the day, it will delay the consideration and further processing of their application. So I told you I wanted to leave my remarks brief. Certainly Tomlinson's legal counsel's laid out their comments in detail, which has been provided to the municipality. And Madam Mayor, with that, I'm certainly happy to answer any questions that council may have. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. DeRuyter. We appreciate it. I'm going to recognize council colleagues at this stage. Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Through you to Mr. DeRuyter. You'll recall on July 15th, the notice of motion that I made on July 7th rose to council. And one of the recitals in that was the following. Whereas a further Class A below water table pit license ERO 019-2389 has been filed by Cornwall Gravel Company Limited for a full 58.27 hectare site on County Road 22 within the municipality with a proposed annual extraction volume of 500,000 tons. And that application remains pending before the Ministry of Natural Resources. So while the Tomlinson application for a license continues to be pending, so does the one from Cornwall Gravel. If you're implying that the reason the council brought this forward strictly because of Tomlinson, that's incorrect. Tomlinson is one of two outstanding pending applications, and the impetus for this notice of motion was to recommend an interim control bylaw to give staff enough time to address the deficiencies in the official plan that's currently being revised. I have not seen the legal letter that Tomlinson has submitted today, but I look forward to reading it. Thank you.
Thank you. And Mr. DeRuyter, we appreciate your comments and thank you for your delegation. I don't know if council colleagues, if you have any other comment. It's not really a debate, but it is an opportunity for Tomlinson, obviously, to express their perspective. And certainly we appreciate you coming this evening. There's
Thank
nothing
you
else.
very much.
Okay, thank you so much. Have a good evening. Okay. So colleagues, just in regards to matters at hand, I want to clarify that tonight there is no formal public meeting on the question of the interim control bylaw. It is a mechanism that is being pursued by council for the reasons already stated by the deputy mayor. To that end, we didn't anticipate hearing from members of the public in regards to the mechanism. The mechanism is a means by which North Grenville is seeking to strengthen aggregate policies for the reasons just stated by the deputy mayor. There is an opportunity to potentially address council subsequent to the deliberation that we will now undertake on the interim control bylaw, which includes discussion of a planning rationale that's been developed by an external consultant, as well as the objection letter that was filed yesterday and for which endorsement by council is being sought today. So I know there's a lot of you here, and I want to say that my office, on behalf of council, has taken great pains to ensure that I think most of you who sent in written comments, they were received, they were forwarded, and to the extent possible, we did endeavor to respond. If we haven't responded to you, it's not because we're ignoring you, it's just because there's been such a high volume of emails. It's taken quite a number of days to ensure that all of the comments received are being cataloged. I also note that where Mr. Mosher has been receiving comments on the staff side, he's also been cataloging those comments on behalf of the planning staff. So at this stage of the game, I would really beg your indulgence to let council deliberate over the matters at hand. If anybody feels extremely strongly that they haven't been heard, then there may be an opportunity once we've concluded this portion to address us. But effectively, the objective this evening, as per the notice of motion introduced by Deputy Mayor and supported by council, is to deliberate over the mechanism at play. So I'd like to walk us through those pieces now, and then we can see where we are at the end of that process. Have I stated things correctly, Ms. Lee? Okay, thank you. So with that, really at this stage of the game, I believe that, is it yourself, Ms. Dunlop, who would you like to at least walk us through the recommendation as per the report that you've provided?
Thank you, Your Worship. You really have summarized my report in your opening statements. So I did, with the clerk's office and the CAO's office, we did implement the notice of motion that was passed by council. And on the, as of July the 15th, we did seek outside planning as well as legal assistance to create and secure a planning rationale, as well as the draft ICBL bylaw that's before you, as well as based on the recommendations endorsing or creation of a letter of objection that I would ask that council endorse and ratify this evening. So that is really the very brief summary that I provide you today. And there were the attachments in regards to the ICBL, the objection letter, and the planning rationale in your package.
Great, thank you very much. And so then maybe then at this stage of the game, it really is now an opportunity for council to comment on either the draft bylaw, the planning rationale, or the letter of objection that has already been prepared by external legal counsel and submitted on council's behalf by the CEO to meet the deadline of yesterday, end of day, the 17th. So with that in mind, I will look for comment on any of the documents under consideration this evening, and we'll start with the Deputy Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And to the points that you made to the people assembled here tonight, I took notes, as some of my council colleagues did, of the people speaking and their concerns. And I just want to say that I heard, and I believe council heard from John Patterson, Carl Kamen, Michelin Lockland, I apologize, Tanya Deans, Sean Brew, Susan Andrews, Tom Graham, and many others who were here on the 15th. I do have a short statement. I wanted to organize my thoughts and give them the time. And if you indulge me, I'll read it now. Thank you. First of all, I'd like to thank our hardworking planning department, led by Director Amy Martin. We benefit from their experience and their expertise in navigating the difficult and challenging terrain when dealing with development proposals. They are doing their best they can with the rules and regulations currently in place, such as our current official plan that's dated May of 2018, which was consolidated in 2023, as well as our zoning bylaws. The county's official plan, the province's provincial planning statement, and the province's aggregate resources act. You should know that lower municipalities like ours have been dealt with a very weak hand, and it seems the province has removed a few of our cards. As we finalize our official plan update, we need to play our hand as best as we can. Finally, I'm not against gravel mining. I simply want to ensure that the activity proceeds under common sense protections that guarantee the long-term health and safety of our rural community. Our policies are in everybody's best interest, including that of the gravel mining sector. Thank you very much.
Thank you. All right. Other comments from colleagues in regards to this particular set of documents? Okay. So with that in mind, I think obviously we can see how much concern has been expressed by the community, and certainly we appreciate all those who are taking the time to articulate I think several areas of concern, and as I think the Deputy Mayor has noted, to the extent possible, we are ensuring that those concerns are being heard by external consultants, experts retained by council on the municipality's behalf in this moment. So we believe at this stage, obviously, that the interim control bylaw does represent a worthwhile and valuable mechanism that will allow for the strengthening of aggregate policies overall, and that if it does withstand potential appeals down the road, we'll have more time than we would have had otherwise to fully consider all of the concerns that have been raised. So I'm looking for the motion that would allow for the establishment of the interim control bylaw, as well as formally receiving the planning rationale, which has been utilized to support the establishment of that interim control bylaw, as well as council's endorsement of the letter of objection. The planning rationale provided by Ramsey Planning certainly highlights many of the concerns that have been identified, certainly not just in this community, but in communities, I think, overall, who are confronting sort of similar proposals, aggregate application proposals. But of course, in this instance, we're quite interested in the impacts that are likely to affect not just those of you living in close proximity to the pit, but more broadly. So with that, colleagues, I can look for a motion that would formalize the enactment of the bylaw, the receipt of the planning rationale, and the endorsement of the letter of rejection. Would anyone like to move that? Okay, Deputy Mayor and Councillor Sullivan have moved and seconded. And I should say, the planning rationale is one of the documents that supports the establishment of the interim control bylaw, but it is the proposed objection letter, in fact, that I think better reflects some of the concerns that have been raised by residents in this room and others that we've heard from by email. So those two documents are quite fundamental to how North Grenville's council in this instance engages in this process. So I don't know if there are any final comments, colleagues, on the adoption of these three matters. Seeing none, I will call the vote. All in favor? Okay, so that carries. Thank you. So with that, we'd like to proceed, I think, to the next item on our agenda, unless there's someone in this audience who feels that they haven't had an opportunity to express themselves to council via email or at the formal public meeting that was held in mid-July. Okay, so we'll accept those comments now. We would like to limit those comments to a maximum of 10 minutes. So please, you have to come and address your comments at the mic. So if in fact you wish to speak for the purposes of the public record, you do have to come down. Okay, thank you. And can I just acknowledge, is there anyone else wishing to speak at this moment? Okay, so we have one person or two. Did I see another hand? No? Okay. So we'll acknowledge this gentleman and then we will move on. We have a very long agenda, unfortunately, but if you feel that you must speak at this meeting, then I would ask that you identify yourself now so we can plan accordingly. Okay, thank you very much. And we're just going to put the clock on. Thank you. And if you could just say your name, please. Thank you. Oh, we just need your mic on. Just one sec.
Scott Frederick.
Welcome.
Thank you. One question I have is how long will this bylaw be in effect for? A year, 2 years?
At this stage, I believe we expect it to be in effect for 1 year.
For 1 year?
Yes, that's
So
correct.
we're basically delaying it for 1 year.
I'm not sure that we would use the word delay, but the interim control bylaw is an opportunity for the municipality to look at its own policies and strengthen them based upon advice from external counsel and other planning
Okay, great.
personnel.
Thank you much.
No problem at all. Is there any other outstanding question that needs to be addressed this evening? I'm not seeing it. So we would encourage you to continue communicating by email. We do very much appreciate, as I think we've stated, all of the comments that have come our way. I think it's abundantly clear that we're taking the matter very seriously, and this mechanism certainly represents a viable way for council to step back and see how we can navigate these matters. So we do appreciate that you've come out this evening. You're one of our largest audiences for what is the last meeting of this term of council. So thank you very much for all the work that you've undertaken to reach out to us. We are your representatives, and it means a lot that you shared your perspectives and concerns with us. So thank you very much. Okay, we're going to take 5 minutes just to switch gears. Okay, thank you. Okay, I just need to, oh, I have water. Okay. Okay, colleagues, I think we're going to reconvene. Okay, we're reconvening after a short break. We're now at deputations and proclamations, and we have someone online who, a long-awaited representative from Sierra Planning and Management, who is going to present the 2025 update report to the analysis of indoor pool options. Council colleagues, you may remember back in 2022, we received a report on the feasibility of establishing an indoor aquatic facility in anticipation of the provincial funding envelope that was ultimately made available. Just today, staff were asked to engage the relevant consultants in a update to the analysis that had been completed in 2022. So I will welcome a representative from Sierra Planning team to walk us through that report. Again, given that it's our last meeting of this term of council, I think the objective was to ensure that council had this information to move forward, and obviously in the months and years ahead, I'm sure some of this information may be utilized should there be an appetite to pursue some external funding and other mechanisms to potentially establish an indoor pool. So welcome. I
Hello.
apologize, I don't have your name, but
That's fine. Madam Mayor, members of council, members of the public, thank you so much for the opportunity to present results of two reports, which we'll talk about today. My name is Astia Bidordinova. I'm a consultant with Sierra Planning and Management, and I was involved in the development of both reports. So if we could move the slides forward. Thank you. So as mentioned, there were two reports. One was developed in 2022 as a follow-up to the recreation master plan that was developed by Monteith Brown. And that master plan did not particularly recommend an indoor pool based on the population of the municipality of Kemptville. Specifically, and but the report said that should the municipality pursue discussions about partnerships with organizations such as YMCA, the feasibility of an indoor pool could be possible. So with this opening in 2022, Sierra Planning and Management was engaged to develop the first phase of the feasibility report. In this report, we did an assessment of the market. What is the service area? What are the service standards? We looked at operational choices, operating the indoor pool municipal only operation versus municipality in partnership with YMCA or other such partnerships. And then we looked at the best locations for at the three options where this indoor pool could be potentially located, and made a conclusion about the best location at the time. The second report then continued that work in 2024-2025, and we've looked at in more general in design options, what are potential program options within the pool, whether it's just the pool or the pool with a gymnasium or any additional components such as childcare or other potential spaces like meeting rooms. And we did a cost estimate, which is the Class D cost estimate, which approximately gives an idea of how much this project might cost. And next slide, please. So the I hope you can see the overall slide, but this slide shows how we approached, yep, perfect, how we approached looking at the surface area and identifying standards. So we drew 30-minute time, 30-minute drive time area. It's still on that upper slide. Yep, perfect. That you see with blue line, and we excluded areas and swimming indoor pools. The black points are indoor pools available at the regional level. We excluded the indoor pools in Ottawa. So we intentionally looked at the indoor pools that are available within the region, but not included in Ottawa. So our standard was initially one pool per, 22,000 residents if Ottawa was included, but it was much less than, it was a higher standard if those two pools were excluded, right? There is no pool within 30-minute drive time at the time in 2024 and 2025. If we look at the United Counties and Leeds and Granville, the standard is one pool per 100,000 population. So the standard is even worse for the United Counties. Next slide, please. We did look at the population before we get to the examples. We did look at the population and the potential and the projected growth in North Granville and in Kemptville specifically, and we actually showed in the 2025 report that the growth takes the population to about 30,000 to 26,000 people within the catchment area, and the standard level of service across Ontario is for smaller municipalities is about one indoor pool per 30,000 population. So just keep this in mind. So this is what we found for standards. Then we did a best practice review. These are just two examples. This review shows that the municipal pools, indoor pools, usually are 25-meter long and 4 to 6 lanes. They rarely are standalone facilities. They often include either they're paired with the arenas, for example, if the arenas exist, if it's a completely new recreation center, or they are paired with the gymnasium and meeting spaces. And the price range dating back in 2019, these are prices as of 2019 and 2018 for the Sherwood Community Center, the price was $39 million. And for the Laurier Brantford Recreation Center, it was $67 million. Next slide, please. So looking at these examples, and we've looked at more examples than just these two, the best practice and the potential core program was distilled to a 25-meter pool with 6 lanes or 4 to 6 lanes, a leisure pool with warm water, and additional, and other best practice items were the 2-tank design, so main pool and the leisure pool, sufficient decking for activities, amenity space, and in-pool accessibility was and has been an important and increasingly an increasing trend in the construction of aquatic facilities. Next, please. So we've looked at 3 sites. We're still in the 2022 report, and our 2025 report returned to these 3 sites. And we've looked at the municipal center, in addition to the municipal center location. We looked at the Riverside Park and the existing outdoor pool, and we've looked at Kemptville campus. Our conclusions after careful consideration of the 3 sites was that that the best site is the municipal center. and that the Campville campus could be considered should there be broader discussions and negotiations with YMCA or other partners, non-municipal partners. Next slide, please. So the 2025 report picks up at this point, and we've looked at the population standards. So we've confirmed that the standard actually, looking at the population projections into the future, the standard within 30 minutes supports construction of an indoor aquatic facility. Then we worked with architects to develop a program, so approximately what kind of activities and amenities will be on the site, on the preferred site, which is again the North Granville Municipal Center site. Next slide, please. So we've come up with two options. The option number one is a core option, which included aquatics and gymnasium. And option number two is the core option plus YMCA services, i.e. a child care facility. You can see it if you move the slide up a little bit, you can see the blue addition to the south. So that would be child care. Thank you. A child care facility, additional about 600 square meters. An additional fitness space that YMCA would run or would be responsible for. Next slide, please. So then we've developed, we did financial analysis for these two options, the core and core plus options, and the resulting summary you can see on this slide. So we are speaking in both options, we're talking about a 25-meter 6-lane indoor pool, an additional leisure and therapy pool, so 2 tanks as per best practice. We in both options, it's the gymnasium of about 895 square meters, and then the second option adds YMCA facilities, and then this introduces the difference in the total gross floor area for 4.1 thousand square meters versus 5.7, and then the base capital estimate for the first option was 56.8 million, for the second option 63 million. Then we add contingency, which is about 20%. So the funding we were looking at, we estimated in 2025 was 68.5 million for option 1, core option, and 76.1 million for option 1 plus YMCA amenities. That also introduces, because the price, the cost is different, and the total gross floor area is different. So the price in the per unit cost is somewhat higher in the option 1, and it's at 1,283 per square foot, and a bit lower in option 2 is 1,230 per square foot because of these differences. Next slide, please. So capital cost considerations were mentioned in the report. So the most important part is that capital costs are increasing because the prices of everything, of construction and services, are increasing. So decisions that were made, numbers that were put together in 2025 may be different, 1 year later, 2 years later. So that requires monitoring comparable projects and accounting for cost escalation when if you're coming back to that consideration of the indoor pool and this report. Assumption of funding is important. The funding can incorporate municipal funding, grants, DC funding, debt, and this combination will drive decisions in the end. And also a significant consideration is the operational deficit, which we also estimated in 2025. Next slide, please. And the deficit, so you can see, so this is the resulting screenshot of our model, and the deficit is at the very bottom. If you could scroll up a little bit. So you can see total revenues. Then we looked at total expenses. We estimated this based on the best practices that we have of other aquatic facilities, similar aquatic facilities in comparable communities. So the deficit we estimated runs at about over 670,000, and with escalation of 3%, it becomes a bit higher. Within 5 years. This is what this model shows, and this is what you can see in more detail and described in the report. For comparison, I actually just looked at a facility, you may know it, in Hawkesbury, in the town of Hawkesbury, which is actually, the population is 10,000 or 11,000 people. Their facility was built in 1974. It is a 6-lane, 25-meter facility, and it runs with the deficit of approximately 450,000 at this point. Oh, that's 25 meters, 4-lane facility. Sorry. So next slide. So we're coming to our conclusions that were the result of the 2 reports and this overall feasibility study over several years. Our conclusions and recommendations were first to advance to the next stage of planning and in the short term. So looking at the funding options, at the design and operational considerations, looking at this potential indoor facility in more detail, what exactly would be included, what are the options. Engage with the public, be transparent on what are the implications for the taxes and the operating impact of the preferred option. Open or consider negotiations and discussions with potential partners. Consider negotiations with the YMCA about the program scope, about their interest in this project overall, about the costs. The report has an appendix, and in this appendix we identified several YMCA partnerships in different municipalities, and for each such partnership, it shows where the municipality and YMCA share, for example, where they share a capital cost, where they share operational costs, who is responsible for what. So this could be an useful appendix to come to and to review, to refresh your memories of this report. Develop a holistic capital funding plan, combining grants, development charges, debt, mortgage, and partner contribution should you consider proceeding with YMCA or other partners. Return to council with the recommended delivery model, timing, and funding strategy for this potential aquatic facility. And importantly, plan for the longer term. Campbell shows strong growth, and it is important to consider this facility, how many people and residents this facility will be servicing, not only in Campbell, but within 30 minutes and within United Counties. So these are the key conclusions. Again, more details in the report that you have in your package. Thank you so much for your attention and for the opportunity to present this. And I'm happy to answer your questions, should there be any.
Okay, thank you so much. And I understand that it's taken us a while to organize everything so we could have you come in front of council this evening. So appreciate your patience and your efforts. Council, some of you will, some of the contents of this report will feel familiar to you because we covered a lot of the ground in 2022, but obviously having the refresh is helpful just in terms of considerations as we enter into phase 2 of our Parks and Rec master plan, among other things. So I'll take any questions from you in regards to this updated report. Of course, more conversation can be had around proposed recreational facilities. As you all know, we're hard at work at pursuing the establishment of a dome, but it's not necessarily to the exclusion of other facilities as we do some of that long-term planning. That being said, obviously, the fiscal impacts of operating an aquatic facility are quite significant. So it's important that I think to the point on the screen about public engagement and being fully cognizant of operating impacts, plus the capital investment required, reports like this are very helpful. So I see Deputy Mayor's hand. Go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just a quick comment before I get to 2 short questions to the representative from Sierra Planning. If this was our 2025 update, does that mean we're finally getting caught up on the work that we wanted to do during this term? It's a joke. Sorry about that. Look of panic on the CAO's face. Yeah. No, in all seriousness, given the increase in population growth, I recall in 2022, it might have been in 2022, we were looking at a 7-year runway. Has that runway, in your estimation, shortened? Are we getting, we may not have made much progress down the road, down the runway, but is the runway getting shorter in terms, you feel in terms of our population growth that would justify starting the whole process? That's the first question. I'll get the second one out as well. In your experience, looking at the capital funding plan, looking at that mix of grants, development charges, partner contributions, have you ever encountered community bonds as being part of that capital funding plan? Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor, for your question. So in terms of population, I actually today looked up the most recent population projections that were done by the municipality in March 2025 by Richards and Associates Limited as part of the population and employment growth projections. So the Kemptville alone, not the 30 minutes area, which is goes beyond Kemptville, obviously. Kemptville on its own will reach 30,000, or estimated to reach 30,600 residents by 2046. So that's in 20 years. But that shows that Kemptville is growing faster than what we estimated. And that means that we do need to recalculate that. I cannot say, do those calculations on the fly, unfortunately, but I have a feeling that the population is growing faster. So I apologize if it does not answer your question precisely. This is not a very scientific answer, but we can recalculate and let you know what our estimates, how they compare to what we said in the 2025 report. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, it was a very general question. Basically, the end of the runway is approaching faster. And so I don't know whether the runway itself, I mean, the amount of time to raise the capital, finalize the planning, et cetera, et cetera. Ideally, we'd like to have a viable proposal at that time where it's justified in terms of population within 30 minutes. It was a very general question, but thank you. I think recalculating when we should seriously, and we are serious, when we should really start focusing our attention in putting funding proposals together. That's the date I'm looking for, like when to start, rather than, it seems to me that date is approaching faster than we expected.
Right,
Is that a
and if
fair
I may,
conclusion?
if that was the focus of the question, the 2025 report already showed that the need is there, and planning can start. One of the recommendations was begin planning in the short term. So we already demonstrated that in the 2025 report.
Thank you. And in terms of community bonds as part of the capital funding mix, in your experience, have you encountered that?
So again, unfortunately, I personally cannot answer this question on the fly. We will look into this, and we will, is there a way to return this question through Tana? Possibly we can return this question, answer to this question. Would that be appropriate, or?
Yes, if you have an example of at least one community that's used it.
Yes.
in terms of
So we
building
will,
code, that'd be great.
yes, we will explore that question and return to you. I just don't recall off the top of my head exactly the mix of different funding packages, or funding opportunities. So I will get back to you with this answer.
Fair enough. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Council colleagues, Councillor Sullivan?
Thank you, Madam Mayor, through you to our consultant. Thank you for the presentation. If you could go back one slide, please, Lindsay. I think it was the operating costs.
Right, the model, yes.
Yes. So did this include any of the costs of the capital, paying back any debt that was on this? Or is this net operating income, which is not income, it's a deficit, but does that include any of the capital costs for paying for the facility? It doesn't appear to be on there.
That is not included here, no.
No,
That would be additional, you're right, that would be additional cost should there be debt.
Okay. Well, I don't think we have buckets of money that deep, but right now, so it would be $626,000 a year in the first year for just to operate it. Is that correct? And
Yes.
this is estimated from 2025.
That's correct, and this is based on kind of best practices or the different numbers that we have for different existing facilities. So it is, yes, approximated.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Okay. Colleagues, anything else? Not seeing anything? Okay. Well, obviously, a fairly complex exercise to even assess where we stand in this moment, as well as what sort of planning needs to be undertaken should we identify, or a future term of council identify that this is a priority. So lots to work with here. We do very much appreciate the presentation this evening. Certainly members of the community are welcome to review this report in great detail, and it might be helpful, CEO Dunlop, to also make the original report available as part of some information sharing with the community. I know this is an update to the 2022 report, which might be a little more challenging to find on our website, so perhaps we can pair those two together. So the report this evening is obviously connected with the initial report, which had a lot of additional information about proposed location, timing, all of the things that were touched upon tonight. Yep. Yes, and Ms. Dunlop was asking if it rose, if the original report rose to council in 2022, and it certainly did. So it is a public document, has been, but might be helpful to just have them posted together so people can make sense of this report in the context of the original. So thank you again for coming. We really appreciate your time and your capacity to provide some really expert analysis of what North Granville would need to do and what the path looks like if in fact at some point we wish to pursue this fairly major recreational infrastructure undertaking. It's really important that we have as many details as possible about both the merits of good planning and also the implications. So thank you again.
Thank you so much. Thank you for the opportunity. Have a good evening.
You too. Yes. And for the report on the aquatic facility feasibility study update, I'm looking for a mover and a seconder, please. Councillor Strahan, Councillor Wilson, moving and seconding the adoption of the aquatic facility feasibility study update. All right, I'm going to call the question. All in favor? Great, thank you so much. Next, we're moving on to the consent agenda. Colleagues, you'll see 3 items on the consent agenda: OPP Detachment Board Annual Review, RVCA Board of Directors Meeting Summary, and the Council recommendation of the establishment of the Age-Friendly Community Framework as part of our considerations via the Community Safety and Wellbeing Plan. So I'll look for a mover and seconder for the consent agenda as proposed. Councillor Sullivan, seconder. Councillor Strahan, thank you. And this is to adopt the consent agenda as presented. I presume no member of council wishes to have an item removed. Seeing none, I'll call the vote. All in favor? Thank you. And look forward to more discussion at a later date on the establishment of the Age-Friendly Community Framework. Next, we've got quite a number of minutes to get through. Thank you to our clerk's office. I know everyone has been exceedingly busy. We do sometimes regard summer as a slower time, but I don't think that has proven true. Certainly not for the last 3 months here in the municipality of North Granville. So thank you to the clerk's office for bringing all of these minutes to our attention. We've got June 10th, 15th, 18th, 23rd, July 7th, 8th, 10th, and 15th. And that's just a small glimpse into the council schedule over the last few weeks. So with that, I'll look for a mover and a seconder for adoption of minutes of council, as noted. Councillor O'Sullivan and Deputy Mayor, thank you very much. Any comments or questions on the minutes? And again, want to extend our appreciation to the clerk's office for getting those all in order and bringing them back in a relatively timely fashion. Seeing no comments, I'll call the vote. All in favor? All right. So I think we have 4 items on the agenda, plus some notices of motion. We'll go to Ms. Martin in regards to the Equinel Phase 6C subdivision agreement. Ms. Martin.
Thank you, Your Worship. I just have a brief oral presentation this evening in regards to this matter. There is a map that was included in the package to help orientate council and the public to which phase of the subdivision it is. What you will note is that at the top of the map, that is the Settlers Trail. There will be a crossing of Settlers Trail down into Phase 6C. And what I do want to iterate for council's benefit and the public, that construction safety plans are a requirement in regards to ensuring safe passage of pedestrians and cyclists on Settlers Trail while construction of Phase 6C is ongoing. And the traffic management plan also had to consider pedestrian mobility around that as well. So the introduction of a bylaw this evening is to give authority to the Director of Planning and Development to enter into a subdivision agreement for Phase 6C of the Equinel subdivision. If council recalls, that draft plan approval was originally given in December of 2023 for what was known as Phase 2H and 6, and Equinel is known for breaking down their developments into to further subphases. So this is the third subphase of Phase 6 that they are seeking to develop. To that end, the subdivision agreement entrenches all of the civil design works and the development requirements for the subdivision itself to create the various lots and blocks for the development, which would include 30 single detached dwellings and 35 townhouse dwelling units, as well as a future connection into the Oxford Village Phase 2 lands down through Churchman Street as proposed on the draft plan of subdivision available on the screen. To that end, staff are satisfied that the developer has met the requirements to enter into a subdivision agreement as it relates to being satisfied with the civil studies and reports that have been brought forward. This agreement also entrenches the requirement for subdivision securities in the amount of $2.75 billion. So if works aren't completed, we do have that ability to draw upon those funds. And to that end, at this time, staff are recommending to council that direction be given to enter into the agreement, subject to further legal review. I do want to note that there will be some minor changes to the legal description in Schedule A as proposed by Equinel's legal counsel, as there are a few little discrepancies, but it does not impact the overall content of the subdivision agreement. Should there be any questions, I am here to answer them, Your Worship. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Martin, can I ask, is it typical at this stage to authorize the director to enter into the subdivision agreement? Is this a typical timeline?
Thank you, Your Worship. In the grand scheme of the development perspective, yes, we've gone through the process to have draft plan approval provided at the county level, and as the developer is fulfilling those conditions, many of which pertain to entering into a subdivision agreement, we are within the timeline as to when we would expect a subdivision agreement to come forward.
And just thank you so much. Appreciate that refresher. Despite doing this for a number of years, it's always good to be reminded. My other question in regards to the Settlers Trail is we had discussed with representatives from Equinel having the metal barriers on either side of the trail entrance to that portion of the trail that would intersect with the road as a way to ensure that pedestrians and cyclists sort of understand that they're coming to a point where there is obviously vehicular movement across the trail. And I don't know if you would be able to enlighten council this evening about whether that particular mechanism, which we have in place for some of the other trails in North Grenville that intersect with roads, was pursued by Equinel, because I remember at the time they had signaled that that sort of additional barrier, if you will, particularly for pedestrians and cyclists, would be a good cue that they're about to encounter a portion of the trail that intersects with a roadway. Are you able to shed any light on that?
Thank you for the question, Your Worship. I would need to follow up with engineering staff on that granular level of details to what was included within the traffic management plan as it specifically relates to pedestrian connectivity. I can certainly report that back to council as to what Equinel is looking at including at that conjecture of where the trail will cross the road.
And just a quick follow-up, would we not have some capacity to influence or direct Equinel to install, again, given obviously our shared concern about interactions between pedestrians, cyclists, and vehicle traffic? As I just remember very distinctly in the conversation that Equinel sought to have with members of council, that proposal was something to which they had responded favorably as a way to ensure that, the 12-year-old cyclist that isn't really thinking about sort of road traffic would have a visible cue, a physical obstacle, so that they would have to slow down before sort of crossing that section of the trail which intersects with the roadway. So just curious about authority, right? Where does the authority lie for that kind of mechanism to be imposed?
Thank you, Your Worship. I'm going to take a stab at the question, but I will note that the benefit of having a CAO as our former Director of Public Works, she may have some additional insight on the engineering side. Typically, that's a very granular level of detail that you wouldn't see included within, say, like a condition of like draft approval. Staff weren't present at those meetings to have heard those conversations in regards to that expectation for that metal barrier for the cyclists and the pedestrians who are crossing that path. So I'd have to go back to our engineering team to review to see if that was what was included as part of the traffic impact study as it related to pedestrian crossings. As for the authority, that's often it's a negotiation with the developer at the staff level. So if there hasn't, again, staff not being as present in those conversations, nor has been formal direction been given at the council table through whether a notice of motion or a resolution. Typically that is council's authority and how you give direction. But it is something I can follow up on as part of the development to see if that was incorporated as part of the overall pedestrian movement and facilitation within the development.
Ms. Dunlop?
Thank you, Your Worship. I do recall that specific safety protocols were to be put in place from a construction perspective, equipment moving across the trail, etc. It being something that is not currently seen in that specific area. Whether or not the longevity after the road crossing Settlers Trail is developed, the ultimate authority is ours from the fact that it is our land. We owned the Settlers Trail. If we wish to put up some sort of safety devices, or if there is some other mechanism that is already in play with the subdivision agreement and in discussions with Equinel, we can follow up. But it is, as I said, that is municipal land. We are the ultimate authority. We can put up whatever warning devices that would be required to ensure the safety of the users of that land.
Indeed, and certainly perhaps when we get to the notice of motion section of the agenda, certainly that is an item that could be flagged for future notice of motion, if that kind of protocol would be helpful in terms of your ongoing discussion with the developer.
If I may, Madam Mayor, if we could check to see what is already in play and bring it back to council rather than putting another notice of motion on the table potentially. We can already see what proposals and safety measures are proposed, but of course it's always council's purview if they wish to put a notice of motion tonight on the floor.
Okay. Is it something that can be brought back within the next 2 to 3 weeks?
Thank you for the question, Your Worship. What we can do is we can reach out to Equinel, we can check our planning records and check with the engineering department to see what was discussed, what was proposed, and what was agreed upon, and bring that back to you, yes.
Okay, great. If we can do it within the month, then if further direction by council is required, certainly I think we can address it at that time.
If I can propose to bring it back to the September 1st meeting?
Sure. Okay, thank you. And thank you for your indulgence, council colleagues. It was just something that really remained foremost in my mind in terms of some of the discussions Equinel sought to have with us. And Ms. Martin, to your point, I think at the time Equinel wished to ensure that all members of council understood their proposition and commitment to safety. And it was through that back and forth that this particular detail emerged. So I just wanted to ensure we circled back on that. So with the benefit of Ms. Martin's presentation, the recommendation this evening is that council enact bylaw 10526 to authorize the Director of Planning and Development to enter into a subdivision agreement for Phase 6C of the Equinel subdivision, subject to further legal review. Councillor Sullivan, question or mover? Just a question. Okay, can I just get it on the table first? Did you mind? Okay, would you mind moving it? And a seconder, please? Do we have a seconder, Deputy Mayor? Okay, let's go ahead, Councillor Sullivan.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, through you to Director Martin. I just wanted to mention that the Health, Safety, Wellness, Active Transportation Committee also discussed site safety on Settlers Trail because so many kids do use that to get to school, and those visual cues, if it's those half gates, would be, they did discuss that. My other question is regarding tree buffering. Is Equinel aware and agreeable to ensure that there is tree buffering between the new residential development and the Settlers Trail?
Through your worship to the member of council, unlike the Oxford Village subdivision, I do not believe that the zoning provisions require that landscape space at the back of the blocks and lots that back onto the Settlers Trail. I do know that as part of their development, Equinel was looking at to plant some additional trees within the Settlers Trail area, but there wouldn't be a specific requirement in regards to that a tree buffer on the residential lots. There will be fencing that backs along those lots onto the trail. So there would be some fencing requirements just to create that separation between where the trail ends and where the backyards begin.
But no trees. I thought that was something that we had discussed and with Equinel, that they were agreeable to save as many trees as they could and to put additional trees in.
Thank you, Your Worship. Well, certainly that might have been a commitment that was made in a conversation. From a zoning perspective, there's no requirement for that landscaped piece. We do require a tree per lot to be planted on the property, and there is a wetland block that is also being preserved as well through the development. But as it relates to specifically requiring them to plant additional trees on the back of those lots or creating that landscaped setback, the zoning does not require that as far as I recall.
Perhaps when you bring back that additional information on the interaction between the Settlers Trail and the road network, any further specificity on the buffering could also be introduced at that time, just so we can have a further discussion. Okay, thank you. So with that, the motion is on the floor, if you will. Any other comments from council colleagues? Not seeing any? Okay, Deputy Mayor.
All right, I'm just thinking that tonight, this is the second time that a buffer on Settlers Trail has been mentioned. And I guess my question is, bless you. My question is to the CAO, so I'm waiting for it to recover. Is our desire to preserve the enjoyment of Settlers Trail and other trails in North Grenville, is that dependent on a bylaw or a change to the official plan or a further articulation of zoning? I mean, how do we go about, is it site alteration that has been discussed? Is it urban tree canopy policy? What's the best way of not dealing with this piecemeal with, site plan and subdivision agreements one by one, still having this question raised over and over again?
Through you, Your Worship, I don't have a direct answer to that question. I know that we are very limited in regards to what we can do and can't do. As we progress through other plans, etc., we have always taken that into consideration. The Settlers Trail we own. There have been trees that have to come down from an urban development perspective on the individual lots as they back on. As we know, urban lots are very small, and typically the elevation of the existing land, it's pre to post construction, does not remain the same. I know that Director Martin and I have had a conversation, and unfortunately at this point in time, the answer is escaping me. But I would ask that Amy could supplement this answer. I would appreciate it.
Through your worship, in regards to an approach, I mean, there's many different approaches that a municipality could take. We could ask the developer to give us the land to add adjacent to the trail. I mean, you could set, I mean, our guidelines provide some general guidance, but that's not enforceable. From a zoning perspective, you can require, typically the language is a landscaped buffer. Again, it's saying a tree buffer, then what is the standard? How many trees? It becomes a little more complex from an enforcement perspective as to how you implement that. In part, it's in part zoning in regards to saying a landscape space, but then it's also the development approval for the plan of subdivision, and that the draft conditions provide more of that nuances to what that requirement is. And typically a part of that approval is a landscape plan. So that's where we get that level of detail when we start to talk about like those 1 trees per lot, this type of species, how they're going to, revegetate the subdivision kind of overall. But that's where you would see more of that nuances to what those requirements are. And, as far as I recall in regard to this specific phase of Equinel, as a zoning approval was about 4 to 5 years ago now, there was no requirement for that buffer space. Typically, we've also worked with our developer partners and to, maybe enhance some of the vegetation on our side of the property line as well. And I know that with the crossing of Settlers Trail, that's part of the plan because some trees do have to be removed to allow for that. But there's a variety of different mechanisms that can be utilized. I don't think there's one exact tool that will get you to what you need to achieve. I think they all cascade and build upon each other to reach that end goal.
Thank you for that answer. So I think it's something worth the next council exploring about what might be the best mechanism to say preserve trees or replace trees along trails. Thank you.
I think the reality is we're learning all the time. So appreciate the engagement with staff so that we can certainly collectively do our best on matters such as this. So I think the motion is before us, colleagues. I think if you're okay, I'll call the question. All in favor? All right, that carries. Thank you very much. Next, we have the pleasure of hearing from Ms. Janot. Quick overview on the Community Strategic Plan 2026 update.
Thank you, Mayor Peckford. Tonight, I'm pleased to provide a mid-year update on the municipality's Community Strategic Plan. This report summarizes progress that has been made in the first 6 months of 2026 and highlights key accomplishments and upcoming priorities across the 5 strategic pillars adopted by Council in 2022. The update also reflects the refinements to a reporting process that arose from Council's strategic planning session held in February 2026. I'm going to go into each of the 5 pillars now and highlight some of the key accomplishments by staff. So Pillar 1, balance and environmentally sustainable growth. Significant progress has been made on environmental sustainability initiatives. Most notably, Council adopted the Climate Action Plan in April 2026, and implementation of activities are now underway. Current efforts include developing partnerships for a municipal tree inventory project, conducting a waste audit, and providing resources to residents and businesses. Planning-related initiatives also remain a major focus. Draft 3 of the official plan has been released for public review, and staff are working toward final policy recommendations related to environmental protection, growth management, housing intensification, mixed-use development, and urban-rural planning considerations. Several of these initiatives show strong progress but remain dependent on completion of the official plan update process. Under Pillar 2, a strong, connected, and vibrant community, several important community building initiatives have advanced during the first half of the year. The Community Grants Program, Arts and Culture Fund, and Mental Health Initiatives Fund are all active, supporting community-led projects and organizations. Advisory committees have completed significant work this term, including a wrap-up report prepared by the Mayor's Task Force on Clean Tech. Looking ahead, 2 major planning exercises will help shape future investments. The Mobility Master Plan has completed extensive public engagement and is moving into evaluation and preferred solution selection. At the same time, work continues on the Parks, Recreation, and Culture Master Plan 2.0, which will guide future decisions on recreation facilities, parks, trails, arts and culture investments, and long-term community infrastructure needs. Under Pillar 3, diverse and resilient economic development, several high-profile economic development projects have reached important milestones. The Tourism Community Improvement Plan and Municipal Wayfinding Strategy are nearing completion, while a new tourism administrator has joined the organization to support implementation efforts. Work also continues to expand tourism offerings, strengthen cycling tourism opportunities, and improve visitor experiences throughout the municipality. Economic competitiveness initiatives also continue to advance. Staff are working with CDAC, Community Futures Grenville, the Chamber, BIA, to support business attraction, investment readiness, and green economic development opportunities. A highlight was the well-attended second annual Sustainable Business Summit successfully delivered in April 2026. Under Pillar 4, Efficient Governance and Service Delivery, this pillar directly relates to one of the key recommendations from Council's February strategic planning session, improving outcomes reporting and streamlining reporting processes. Moving forward, strategic plan updates will continue to be brought directly to Council, while departmental work plans will be reported through the CAO. Several internal modernization initiatives are underway, including asset management improvements, communications policy development, cybersecurity enhancements, and the evaluation of new budget software solutions. Staff are also advancing work related to talent attraction, retention, leadership development, compensation review, which is on the agenda tonight, and workforce planning. A particularly important milestone was the completion of the organizational review, which supports Council's commitment to continuous improvement and service excellence. And lastly, under Pillar 5, A Caring Community, the municipality continues to play a strong leadership and advocacy role in healthcare, housing, inclusion, and social services. Highlights include support for physician recruitment initiatives, continued advancement of the nurse practitioner-led clinic and primary care hub, which this council has supported, implementation of the Fire Master Plan recommendations, expanded mental health partnerships, and ongoing advocacy efforts with senior levels of government, including today's AMO delegations. Staff also continue to advance reconciliation and equity initiatives, including finalizing the reconciliation framework, supporting the Indigenous Advisory Circle and the Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion Advisory Committee, and delivery of EDI training to over 100 municipal employees. And lastly, transit continues to grow with the commuter route to Ottawa now established and staff exploring opportunities for additional service connections and fixed route options within Kemptville. In closing, this mid-year report demonstrates that substantial progress continues across all 5 strategic pillars. While some initiatives have experienced delays, the majority remain on track, and several major community priorities have moved from planning into implementation. The update also reflects Council's direction to improve how we communicate progress and focus on outcomes. Staff will continue refining reporting processes while advancing the priorities identified in the strategic plan and preparing for the planned strategic plan refresh in 2027. And as a reminder, all these updates, including some metrics that are already linked to the strategic plan, are viewable through our easy-to-use dashboard at northgrenville.ca/vision. That concludes my report, and we do have about half of our senior leadership team here tonight to answer questions that you might have about specific strategic plan items. And I'm also pleased to answer any process questions from Council. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ms. Janot. Questions from colleagues? Deputy Mayor?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And this is a process question, so it'll be directed to Ms. Janot. Invest in arts and culture. 2.4.1 and 2.4.2 make reference to the PRC master plan. Are we on track with our renewal of the master? Oh, maybe this is another question for, I'm sorry. It's a process question directed to the Director of Parks, Rec and Culture. Yeah, sorry. Are we on track with our renewed Parks, Rec and Culture plan to address 2.4.1 and 2.4.2?
Thank you for the question, and through you, Madam Mayor. So we are on track. We've had our initial conversations with the Monteith group, and we're proceeding through. And so we'll have more wholesome updates shortly once we're getting through the process.
Thank you. Colleagues, other questions this evening? No, there's been lots of ground covered over the last few months. I wonder if I can ask Ms. Janot, it was great to hear you highlight a number of areas where meaningful progress is being made. I'm just curious from your perspective, where at this stage in the evolution of the community strategic plan do you see the opportunity for the most, I'll call it evolution, or most progress yet to be made, if you will? And I know you closely monitor all of the sort of strategic actions within that plan. So curious to know where you look forward to highlighting some additional momentum or traction in areas that, for lots of different reasons, take a bit of time to come to fruition.
It's a great question, Madam Mayor. I'd say it's hard to kind of identify one specific pillar. I'd say under each one, there's probably areas where we could make more improvement. If I had to choose one, I'd probably say under pillar 5, because a lot of that is very, very broad work that is being done. And some of it might just be adjustments that need to be made in the refresh next year, identifying, okay, we've maybe completed this part of the work and here's where we want to go from here. You'll see in the latest version of the strat plan that was attached to the agenda that there are a few additional items that have been marked as complete. But as we know, completing a plan is only the start of the work. So I think identifying some of those items in the refresh next year will be a big priority for us.
And might I ask, thank you so much. Do you see that the budget is a key driver of some of the fulfillment of aspects of the plan, or do you think it's more of an organizational-wide effort, if you will? Just curious to know in terms of ensuring that we're always honoring the plan, and I'm delighted with the update. I think the progress is really impressive. So we are appreciative to the senior leadership team, of course. Do you see that there are areas where through the budget we can better equip the municipality to make progress?
Through you, Madam Mayor, I think over the past few years, it's been a little tough just getting on a regular reporting schedule with the strat plan and the budget just due to staffing constraints and such. So I'm really looking forward to in this year and future years to be really using the strat plan document to drive the budget itself. So we're really aiming to have this work done ahead of budget and budget requests from staff and get it in your hands before then. We were close last year in doing that, but just for timing, things got a little off kilter. But absolutely, I wouldn't say the budget is the driving force, but it's definitely the biggest resource that we have other than our staff to move this work forward.
Indeed. Okay, thank you very much. Any other questions, colleagues, at this stage? Okay. Well, we appreciate it, of course. I know that reference was made to our session in February, which was a good regroup on where things stood, if you will, or where from both a staff and a council perspective, there was lots of alignment and some exciting work to continue and to pursue. So appreciate your careful attention to the strat plan. We were very excited, as all of us will recall, for the adoption of that strategic plan back in 2021-22, right? Yeah, engagement started, I think, in 21. Okay, so I believe for the purposes of this report, Council, we're just receiving it for information purposes. Councillor Wilson, Councillor Strachan, would you like to move in second? Thank you. All right, so calling the question, all in favor? Good, thanks. Okay, I think we're getting close. So under compensation review, of course, colleagues, you'll recall at the beginning of this meeting, which feels like a long time ago now, we reported that have closed and moved direction in regards to the staff compensation report. What remains on the agenda is the council compensation report, and I'm not sure who's giving that report. Okay. Thank you. Welcome.
So we've been tasked to provide a review of the council remuneration and provide some options. Council received the council remuneration review and consider the following options. So number one would be to maintain the current remuneration framework and compensation levels subject to annual economic adjustments using the same percentage approved as the employee group. Number two would be to adopt a total compensation philosophy and target the 60th percentile of the approved comparator market. And number three would be to adopt a total compensation philosophy using alternative methods or market adjustments as determined by council. Then that council would be directed to approve of the adjustments, which would be on specific dates, which dates they would become in effect, or another date as directed. We would continue annual economic adjustments using the same percentiles as approved by the staff for the staff employee group, and complete an independent market review once each term before the nomination period for the next municipal election. So as part of this review was to provide council with an objective assessment of the compensation and provide it to the members of council. This review examined the appropriateness of current I have a hard time with that word, remuneration framework in relation to the responsibilities, accountability, and time commitments associated with elective office. It also provides recommendations to support different options for compensation models that are fair, transparent, equitable, and fiscally responsible while establishing a sustainable framework for future council remuneration decisions. Unlike municipal staff positions which are evaluated using formal job evaluation methodologies based on required education, experience, knowledge, responsibility, accountability, elected officials require some exploration to determine the best tool to use adequately and how to assess the requirements of those council roles and the appropriate compensation. Members of council are elected by the community and may bring a broad range of education, professional backgrounds, as well as skills and lived experiences to the role, which are generally some of the factors used within job evaluation. There is no prescribed qualifications for municipal office beyond those established by legislation, while individual capabilities may vary, and municipal government generally recognizes 3 distinct elected roles: councillor, deputy councillor, and mayor, with each carrying progressively greater leadership responsibilities and accountability. So let's just skip through, we have some legislative and governance context that we're going to cover under Section 283 of the Municipal Act, where a municipality may pay remuneration and expenses to members of council. Council members are elected officials, not municipal employees, and remuneration is established by bylaw rather than employment standards governing employees. So Section 284 requires the treasurer to provide an annual itemized statement of remuneration and expenses. Principles, we're looking to ensure that we have role alignment, time commitment, external reasonableness, accessibility of public office, fiscal responsibility, and transparency and independence. Methodology. So our current base remuneration for salary for our mayor is $49,721.60. Deputy mayor sits at $28,3952. And councillors sit at $24,650.68. Annual increases, again, match up to our employee group. Allowances are provided within our bylaw provisions, including cell phone, professional development, conferences and training, and meal allowances. We also have included on some optional requirements for pension contributions, extended health and dental, and life insurance. While we consider compensation, we have to take a look at municipalities' commonly used fixed salaries, meetings per diem, and as population formulas, expense reimbursement, peer benchmarking, and annual cost of living adjustments. The municipality of North Granville currently uses a combination of those: base salary, expense reimbursement, peer benchmarking, and cost of living. Expenses associated with conferences and mileage, professional development are reimbursed in accordance with municipal policy, while annual economic adjustments mirror those approved by the municipality's employee group. This is the most widely method used with our competitor group. We did explore the population model using the United Counties of Prescott and Russell formulas cited in the source report, and a population of 17,000, approximately 964, produce approximately $13,000 for annual base salary for the mayor and almost 9,000 for the councillors. These amounts are materially below our North Granville current remuneration and comparative market levels. So a population-only formula does not account for service complexity, growth, governance structure, committee duties, or organizational scale. It's therefore not considered an option as the primary method for North Grenville. We took a look at a direct comparator compensation approach. So under the direct comparator approach, both Township of Russell and the Municipality of Port Hope were identified to consider for their compensation or their council structure. Their responsibilities, community characteristics that closely align with North Grenville, and use their compensation philosophies as a model for establishing an option with this report. Council composition and workload would inform the selection of the comparator municipalities the municipality or municipalities. North Grenville could align its base remuneration and, where appropriate, it's sticking now, benefit and pension provisions with the selected model using either one comparator's compensation schedule or an average of the two. This approach is straightforward, transparent. However, the selected comparators and their compensation practices should be reviewed periodically to ensure they remain relevant to our municipality. We have the comparator analysis listed here. We've got, we used similar ones as we did with the non-union review, but we added a number of other municipalities just to ensure that we had a larger breadth of comparators in for council. North Grenville has the fewer council members than the comparator median and serve a population above the comparator median, which means its residents per official measure is higher than all but the Russell group. This indicator provides useful context, but does not in itself measure workload. Market findings. The review indicates that North Grenville's overall council compensation is generally competitive when base remuneration is looked at, including employer-paid benefits, pension contributions for eligible members. For the deputy and mayor, as well as the mayor, it is below comparator market benchmarks examined in the review. Council remuneration is closer to the market median. So when we're talking percentiles, at the 60th percentile, the proposed salaries would be 27,735, 53. The deputy mayor would be 30,426, and the mayor would be at 58,482. If we're looking at a slight increase there to go to 75th percentile, the proposed salaries would be 29,989 for councillors, 35,469 for deputy mayor, as well as 64,184 for the mayor. With direct comparator option, the proposed salaries would be 37,203 for councillors and 72,638 for mayor. As there's no deputy mayor represented in two of those comparators, 55,931 would be considered a consistent percentage comparator. The 60th and 75th options would maintain the relative difference among council positions based on the comparative market. The uniform increase option would produce a proportionately larger increase for councillors than deputy mayor and than the mayor. The population-based formula examined in the review did not produce consistent alignment with the comparator market and has therefore been excluded from options. So we've, actually I've already reviewed those ones. I'm just going to skip. Yes. Thank you.
I think we're nearing the conclusion, Jill?
Yes, we are. We're almost done.
Okay, thank you. Just conscious of our curfew time.
Yes, I was just noticing
I
that.
appreciate
Okay.
your careful consideration.
Last
of the
page.
report. Okay. sounds good.
Financial considerations. Current remuneration on our base pay is $151,000. Option one is 60th, we're at 172. Option 3, option 2 is 75th is 189. Option 3 is 240, and direct comparator with Port Hope is 309. We have laid out the budget impacts on the 7th page, along with the tax levy implications there. And I'll finish there. Thank you.
Thank you so much, and thank you for taking on this project. I know both staff compensation and council compensation were certainly reflected considerable investment of your time and energy, and we appreciate on both fronts. You've provided really excellent insight and expertise, so thank you. At this point, as we know, council compensation really is at the discretion of council. We appreciate the excellent staff input and the market comparisons you've provided, and I know I'm struck by the fact that the Township of Russell appears to be our closest comparator when we're looking at representation and geography and community characteristics. And notably, as I think the 5 members of this council have understood time after time, a smaller council obviously means we have fewer councillors with which to distribute the work, but it's also meant that we've been able to really come together as a team. So I will look to council colleagues for any questions or comments at this stage of the game. Councillor Sullivan. Oh, I apologize, Deputy Mayor, go ahead.
At your discretion. Thank you, Jill, Ms. Cummings. I echo the mayor's comments about the amount of work and back and forth that you've had to go through, and including having to pronounce remuneration publicly. Council will recollect around this time, a couple of council meetings, I couldn't pronounce compatibility. So I empathize. I think it's obvious to me that the direct comparator with Russell makes most sense, given the amount of impact to the budget and the tax levy impact. And to the mayor's point about being a council of 5, I think it has made us able to come to consensus and agreement probably a lot easier than a council of 7. And that's the only reason I would reject the Port Hope comparator. So thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Sullivan.
I'm going to make a motion then, and if there's a seconder, then we can further discuss this. So if I may, a 2-part motion?
Yes, please.
Thank you. So whereas council has received and considered the staff report regarding council remuneration, I had trouble with numbers earlier, so and the municipal comparator information provided. And first of all, I wanted to thank you both for all the work that's gone into this. So, and whereas council is of the view that Russell Township represents the most relevant comparator to North Grenville, considering similarities in household-based council composition, community characteristics, and municipal responsibilities. And whereas council believes that remuneration for elected officials should reasonably reflect the responsibilities, workload, and expectations associated with municipal office while remaining competitive with comparable municipalities. Therefore, be it resolved that effective with the commencement of the 2026-2030 term of council, the annual remuneration for members of council be established for the first year of the term using Russell Township's 2026 remuneration as the benchmark as follows. Mayor, $72,638.03. Councillor, $37,203.34. Deputy Mayor, new salary of $55,931. And that following the first year of the term, these amounts be subject to the same annual cost of living adjustments applicable to the municipality's staff or such other annual adjustment mechanism as may be established by council. And that the necessary council remuneration bylaw be brought forward to give effect to this resolution. So that is the first motion. Do we need, will I
Do you
carry
think-
on with the next one?
Why don't you put it all on the table at once, just
Sure.
given our time considerations?
Okay.
Go ahead.
Okay, thank you. And this is different, but based on my personal experience, which may be considered age discrimination, the municipality should consider a formal policy providing compensation in lieu of employer-paid benefits, which would include OMERS and CPP employer contributions, for any member of council who becomes ineligible due to age-related or other legislative restrictions. Organizations such as the Ottawa Hospital commonly provide payments in lieu of employer-paid contributions. This policy would promote fairness, consistency, transparency, and equitable overall compensation for all members of council, regardless of pension or CPP eligibility. Thank you.
Okay, so thank you. Councillor Sullivan has moved. Is there a seconder? We can treat them separately or together separately? Okay, so for the first motion in regards to council compensation as it relates to the Township of Russell, do we have a seconder for that motion? Great, okay. So Councillor Wilson is seconding. Thank you very much. Discussion, council colleagues. Yes.
Through you, Madam Mayor, is there any consideration given to phasing in the, to minimize the impact on the tax levy so that it wouldn't be all at once, so that it wouldn't be the 0.42% increase, but rather 0.21 and 0.21, sort of a phased-in approach over 2 years?
Certainly at that council's discretion, how we manage these matters, that could be a proposed amendment for a 2-year phase-in if there's support for that. Obviously, it really is at council's discretion how we wish to approach the matter of compensation generally. So I'd have to go back to the mover perhaps and ask if she's amenable to that or another alternative proposal.
I would leave it with the rest of my council colleagues, although I feel that 0.42% is reasonable.
Thank you. Okay. Councillor Strahan.
So perhaps through you, Madam Mayor, it's not a question of whether it's reasonable overall, it's the impact on the taxes for each year. We have staff compensation that's also been considered, and that's going to have an impact on the tax levy. So I think it's the cumulative effect to spread it out over the 2 years. That was my only thought on this. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor.
I would support the amendment that Councillor Strahan is suggesting. We are making a decision that doesn't have an impact till the new council is sworn in, which is November 17th. So that council can reflect on that and decide. But I think, I wouldn't describe it as tying their hands, but I think phasing it in over 2 years would be acceptable. And I think they would possibly appreciate it being passed but phased in.
Can we say across 2 fiscal years?
Yeah.
So that would give some flexibility to determine the timing subject to additional analysis by the Finance Department.
Yes, to you, Madam Mayor, I think that's what my intention was. It's over 2 years, 2
Across
different
two-
years,
two
yes,
fiscal
across
years.
2 fiscal
Okay.
years.
So
And just, it would require an amendment, I believe, to the
Right.
motion because the current motion states as of the start of the 2026-2030.
Councillor O'Sullivan, are you
Sure.
amenable to saying across 2 fiscal years?
Sure.
Effective with the new
With
term
the
of
new
council?
term of council, yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
great. Thank you.
I'm unclear as to the distinction you're making with fiscal years. What are we talking about?
I
Versus
don't know what the fiscal year end is for the municipality.
31st?
Is it 31st? Okay. So I think it just is to align the new compensation structure with the fiscal year of the municipality. That's all.
So effective January 1st, 2027, is that?
Yes, go ahead. Ms. Donald.
Typically, when council compensation comes into play in accordance with the municipal act, it does begin with the term of council.
I see.
So that would be the November
term of
17th
council.
swearing in.
Right.
So the new term of council would have whatever recommendations, if there's, other than your typical cost of living, as well as a policy that states in the future, which we will bring back at a later date to make sure that council compensation, similar to staff compensation, is done on a regular, routine and solid basis.
Okay. So for the purposes of this discussion, is Councillor Sullivan comfortable with the stipulation of across 2 fiscal years, noting that the commencement of the adjustment would be with the new term of council?
Yes,
Okay.
Madam Mayor, that's
Thank
fine
you.
with me. Thank you.
Okay, so just conscious of our time, not to short circuit any discussion, are there other comments from council colleagues? I'm not seeing any. So I think at this stage, we'll thank staff for their good work and I'll call the question. All in favor? All right, that carries. Thank you. So let's move on to your second matter. Councillor Sullivan, you've read the motion, which is in regards to, as I understand it, ensuring that there is an alternative method for the payment of CPP and OMERS contributions, which is that if any member of council is deemed ineligible due to, I presume, age or other limitations, there could be consideration of a cash contribution instead. Is that what I'm to understand?
Yes, that's it.
Okay.
So that the council compensation consists of the honorarium, or as described here as base pay, base salary. So the honorarium and employer paid contributions. And in some cases, maybe only based on age, maybe there's other factors I'm not aware of, but in some cases, a council member may not be eligible to continue to contribute or have the contributions made to OMERS, and so which results in inequitable compensation overall. And so to ensure that this remains fair and equitable, a payment in lieu of that contribution could be made to the member, and therefore they can invest it in any way they want towards future pensionable kind of in lieu of.
Understood. Okay. So this is also looking at this policy, should it be considered and passed this evening, would come into effect for the next term of council at this stage. Okay. So do we have a seconder for this particular? Oh, well, no, Councillor Sullivan did move, so we're looking for a seconder. I certainly don't mind seconding the motion so that it's on the table. My understanding is that different municipalities have different ways of treating older employees or members of council who age out of age-related pension plans, and CPP being among them. So I recognize we're eagerly awaiting a report from staff in which the question of what to do with older employees or older council members who no longer qualify for some of these programs will be addressed. I understand that by virtue of talking about council compensation for a future council, Councillor Sullivan has brought to our attention once again that in her view, there should be an adjustment in terms of how to treat those employees or members of council who are no longer eligible for OMERS and CPP. So I think your proposal, Councillor Sullivan, is that there just be payment in lieu for those contributions. So that's the motion on the table. I'll welcome any comments by staff, by members, colleagues. Go ahead, Councillor Strachan.
Just to clarify, Madam Mayor, what's being asked via this motion is for staff to establish a policy, not to say how it's going to be done, but to establish a policy that covers that particular concern of aging out. It doesn't necessarily mean that there will be payment in lieu, but rather that there's a policy established to clarify what happens when somebody ages out of things such as OMERS and CPP. That is correct?
Well, I'm looking at Councillor Sullivan's motion, which is the municipality should consider a formal policy. That's correct.
Yes, to consider a formal policy. So regardless of the outcome, and that will be informed by the report from staff.
Indeed.
Correct. Okay. Thank you.
So motion's on the table. Any other comments or questions, Deputy Mayor?
To Councillor Sullivan's suggested motion, I'd be more comfortable if it directed staff to return with a report on the feasibility of developing a policy. I'm not sure where the law stands when we're dealing with CPP, for example.
I think those things would be taken into account as part of consideration of the
So
the policy
is it a
development.
motion to have staff return with a report
That's
or
correct.
with a draft
Formal
policy? Draft policy.
But obviously,
Okay.
with the development of draft policy, I think they would take those things into account that you
Yeah.
addressed in terms
As
of.
long as the report is included in that, I'd have no problem.
Indeed.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Any other comments or questions? Okay, I'm going to call the vote. All in favor? Again, the language is in regards to, as I understand it, the municipality should consider a form of policy. We can include in the form of a report. Okay, I apologize, in the form of a report. So are you amenable, Councillor Sullivan, to that amendment? Okay. So with that in mind, I'll call the question, or are there other comments? Okay, calling the question, all in favor? Okay, so that passes. Thank you very much. And obviously, we're rushing to the end here. We have one other crucial piece of business, which is a delegation of authority. I know that CEO Dunlop has identified 5 items for delegation of authority. And council colleagues, if I could just highlight what they are. It's the Clothier Street Sidewalk Project authorization to proceed during restricted acts period. And this is in anticipation, Ms. Dunlop, of a amount exceeding the allocated budgetary item for the completion of the Clothier Street sidewalk. Is that correct?
That is correct, Your Worship.
Okay. And if you could just walk us through the other delegation of authority for this evening?
The other delegated authority to the CAO during a lame duck period or restricted periods was prepared by our clerk, and to cover off some other outstanding items such as ongoing negotiations regards to land purchase, FFC, Bell Hall, and as well as the Build Canada homes, which was discussed at the last meeting. So these two delegated authority items would provide some corporate consistency and to be able to carry on certain corporate business in restricted periods.
So I regret, council colleagues, these have just been brought to my attention this evening. They're not part of your package, is my understanding, or you do have them in front of you? Okay. So I think that you can see the delineation for the delegation of authority to exceed original project budgets, funding of additional costs. The authority would not be, the CEO would not be given the authority for new projects, continuation of existing contracts and commitments, financial administration, and reporting to council. I would like to note, CEO Dunlop, we have mandated you to navigate some matters in regards to FFC. I think the delegated authority there comes with some parameters, and this delegation doesn't go beyond that. So, which is, I think, where we arrived through previous discussions. So this particular delegation of authority really outlines some areas where, to your point, corporate continuity is valuable, and I know that you would bring to our attention immediately how you're exercising that delegated authority so that we all remain on the same page. Is that correct?
That is correct, Your Worship.
Okay. So with that in mind, council colleagues, I appreciate that you are getting this rather late in the game, but are you in a position to move and second the consideration of these delegated authorities? Councillor Strachan, do I have a seconder? Deputy Mayor, go ahead.
Yeah. Is there a term on this? I imagine that delegated authority ends on November 17th.
So for during restricted acts
Until
being laid
council,
up.
the new council is sworn in. Yeah. Okay, thank you.
And I think our very seasoned clerk probably has experience with this delegation of authority through her previous municipalities. So this bylaw looks like something that many municipalities are tackling at this stage of the game. Okay, great. So the two are there. One, again, to remind council, is authorization to proceed with the Clothier Street Sidewalk project, which is anticipated to go beyond the budgetary allocation. And the second for the areas that I've already identified. So the motion's on the table. Are there any further questions? Seeing none, I'm going to call the vote. All in favor? Great. Excellent. So with that, there's no correspondence items highlighted this evening. I've been advised by the clerk that the notice of motion for the North Grenville Curling Club is not being pursued this evening due to a change of course with the curling club itself and their funding opportunities. So last but not last, we have one final notice of motion. And this notice of motion, which was brought to our attention last week, is something that I felt it was important to highlight because a number of municipalities across Eastern Ontario are looking at the opportunity to potentially pursue the establishment of better commuting services, given all of the discussion around high-speed rail. And as a consequence, City of Brockville, Elizabethtown Kittley, and the municipality of North Grenville have been having some very high-level discussions about jointly engaging in some analysis of both the economic and social benefits to pursuing commuter services that might be akin to the GO train, for example. This is very preliminary, but the opportunity to study the possibility of commuter services is something that a number of municipalities in Eastern Ontario have been contemplating. So before you this evening is a motion to really endorse the study of the establishment of some commuter service opportunities. Deputy Mayor, would you like to move that motion?
Yeah, I will move, and I at the risk of ridicule, I guess I would like to quote our Prime Minister that if you're not at the table, you're on the menu. So I think this is an opportunity for us to be at the table. It's not committing us to anything other than participating in this economic development or economic study, impact study. And the goal, again, is the ancillary or the secondary commuter services to take advantage of that if we're able. Thank you.
Okay. Do we have a seconder for that motion? Thank you, Councillor Strachan. So I think it's fairly evident what's before us this evening, Council. So I'll welcome any last comments or questions. Yep, Councillor Sullivan.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. My only comment is, and I think I made this last week as well, but distinction between light rail and high-speed rail. I don't want it to be confused with Alto, and I think that's a possibility when we're speaking of high-speed rail versus light rail transit.
Understood, and I think those distinctions will be pursued in this report that really allows smaller municipalities versus the larger cities to think strategically about, to your point, sort of lighter rail service, if you will. So certainly we, as we pursue this, can make sure that that distinction is clarified. Okay, so the motion's on the table. I see no further comments. I'm going to call the question. Okay, thank you. That carries. Appreciate that. So we don't have many members of the public left. I think we have a couple of staff people. Is anyone wishing to make comments this evening? Yep. Okay. Okay, and then I do have a comment. Thank you.
Are we able to go backwards just for a minute?
Sure.
Because we need to, if we're allocating funds for this study, we need to have a resolution for a upset limit of and where it's coming from.
Okay, thank you. So would you like that to be a secondary motion or included in the motion that we just passed? Okay, okay. So if you could just formulate that motion for us.
That council approves an upset limit of $35,000 to come from general reserves.
Thank you. Okay. Can I have a mover and a seconder for that? Deputy Mayor, Councillor Wilson, thank you. Any comments or questions? I will emphasize that a number of municipalities are looking to cost share. I would prefer an upset limit of 40,000 just based upon how the math is working to my best understanding right now. So Deputy Mayor, are you okay with that?
Yes, after talking with mayors in Leeds and Grenville, I would agree to a slightly larger upset.
Perfect, thank you. So I've got a mover and a seconder. I'm going to call the vote. All in favor? Okay, thank you. So we are at the moment of confirmation bylaw. That is our bylaw 10726 be read a first, second, third time and finally passed in open council. Mover and a seconder, please. Thank you, Councillor Wilson. I need a seconder, Councillor Sullivan. Thank you. Okay, so before I adjourn, and I know we're past curfew, I just wanted to take an opportunity to thank my council colleagues. This is the last meeting of this term of council, to our knowledge. So something could happen in the next 48 hours, and say what a pleasure it has been to work with all of you, to be your head of council. And I have learned so very much and have been so gratified by all of the conversations and the community engagement and the heavy lifting we've all done. With our remaining, with the members of the senior leadership team here this evening, I also wanted to express my gratitude. Of course, it's a very, very busy community, and we've been a very, very busy municipality. I wanted to leave a token of my appreciation for you. So while in Newfoundland, I have a cousin who is the oldest cousin on my mother's side of the family. Unfortunately, that cousin, David, is in the last stages of a very difficult battle with liver disease. And David, over the last couple of years, has made it his mission to make stained glass, evoking the spirit of Newfoundland, which is where obviously he was born and raised, as was I. So after this council meeting, I'm just going to pass out little tokens of my appreciation for all members of staff and council that are here. And I want to say I'm doing it in honor of my cousin, who was an intellectual, who was artistic, and who was compassionate. And I think those are things that define some of our best qualities here in North Grenville. And I know it hasn't been an easy 8 years, but I think it's been a very meaningful 8 years. And I want to express my appreciation to all of those, whether you've been with us just a few months or you've been with us the whole way, for your contributions, commitment, dedication, patience, and I think engagement with residents and businesses here in North Grenville. So with that, I'll adjourn our meeting, and don't leave until you have your piece of stained glass. Motion to adjourn at 10:36. Who can move? Councillor Sullivan, Councillor Strachan. Thank you very much. Calling the question. All in favor? All right. Thank you.